Welcome in, everybody, to another edition of the Sunday Social Show. We are unlucky to not have Dylan here today, so Keith Fleming has decided to join us last second. Thank you very much, Keith. How's it going?
Man, doing well. Falcons are 2-0. I mean, is this real life?
It
you
is
watch
when
Bluey?
they face
Is
the
this real
Packers.
life? Any parent knows what I'm talking about. You guys
I
don't.
know what you're talking about.
Or, Mike, you probably don't. I mean,
I don't, but I do know that every fantasy football player hates Arthur Smith for being 2-0 right now because they are not going to get what they want. But
I question some of his decision making, to say the least. Like, I'm happy to be 2-0, but you spent a top 5.
It's a questionable 2-0.
Probably should use them.
It's a questionable 2-0. But before we jump into it, before we jump into those rankings that you guys are all, clamoring about, because, Joe's top 5 ranker usually every week, top 10 last week. Make sure you guys, go to fantasy6pack.net/plans and sign up for a subscription. If you want to get, all access to each one of us, Keith for betting or DFS, and Joe for his rankings. You got Alan for betting, which is Keith's co-host on their show. You got Dave, Eddy, you got Chris, Robbin. I mean, for your DFS needs right there too as well. So we are just growing on the DFS side, in my opinion, and it is worth every penny just to go for that. And then you get access to annoy the hell out of Joe, which I love doing.
you do a good job with that, Mike. Don't worry.
Make sure you guys go to fantasy6pack.net/plans to get all those. You get DFS projections. There's just a whole crap ton of stuff behind that paywall that is just worth it. But let's jump into it, because I know we just got quick segments here. Joe, going into these rankings, I'm not gonna lie, I had to do these for the first time because usually Dylan does them. So bear with me here, but. The one that kind of stuck out in my mind the most is Justin Fields right now is sitting at QB7 in the ECR, going against the Kansas City Chiefs. So, not a tough matchup. And you've actually got him a little bit down at QB9 this week. Tell me why.
Yeah, I mean, look, I know people are probably expecting, a high scoring game or whatever in this one, but I don't know, man. Kansas City is still allowing the 6th least number of points to quarterbacks this season. So take that into consideration.
Played 2 pretty good ones too.
Yeah. Very good point. And then look, not gonna lie, there was a lot of Twitter tape, a lot of Twitter analysis on Justin Fields this week, and a lot of it backed up what I've been saying all preseason, right? Yes, we know Justin Fields has the legs, and that's going to carry some of his value. And it did last week, right? He ended up being okay for fantasy. But he is still, in my opinion, a pretty terrible quarterback. He missed wide open throws. And yes, some of the tape is a little off. If you look at it, look, he's not even looking in the direction. They're like, oh, but this guy's way open over here. Fields' first read was over here. So this guy getting open first on the right side when he's looking left, that doesn't count. Now, when he's literally looking at the wide open dude and then just goes, nope, and tucks and just runs into the middle of a stacked line, that's terrible. He keeps doing that. And so I don't know if it's a confidence issue, a coaching issue, but until he does that, I'm probably going to have him ranked below, consensus, even on our site, consensus on Fantasy Pros for some time, because I don't think his legs are going to carry him to a top 3, top 4, top 5, finish most weeks. Teams are catching on that pretty quick.
I mean, they're not even really running any QB design plays for him anymore like they did at the second half of the season. But still, all those plays, defense has tape on, so they can easily just learn how to defend that as well. But I get it. He's got to take those first reads a little bit faster. But we're going to move on here to our next guy. And this was kind of like the belle of the ball last week. Everybody was hating on him. Zach Moss. All right. Takes the starting running back position for them at the Colts. And this week he's got the Ravens. So it's not an easy matchup. But ECR has him at RB22. Joe, you got him at 17.
Love it.
I mean,
Joe.
I don't love him. I mean, I wish I didn't have to start him, right? But like the running back landscape is pretty atrocious. We mentioned that on the Fantasy Six Pack Hour on Thursday. We're all hoping and praying that the guys that we picked up off of waivers, Zach Moss probably being one of them, in a lot of cases here, are going to work, because we're missing a lot of studs, and it's not fun. The Ravens are a good defense.
Are you just a little afraid of like a repeat of maybe Josh Kelly last week because of the whole situation with matchup a little bit at all?
Not really. Only because I mean, look, Tennessee is they've been something special against the run. I don't understand it. Right. But they've been something special. I mean, the Ravens are tough, but it's not like a lot of people were throwing Kelly and like I was one of them. I was throwing Kelly near top 10, if not inside top 10. Just workload
I'd say
alone,
most people did.
You thought was going to be there. Like I've got him, I've got him right around. I think you said 17.
Yep.
It's just one of those, like, he's gonna get the workload. They've already released Deion Jackson. Like,
yeah,
I don't know who else they're gonna use at this point. Like, okay, this is Zach Moss, and we don't. And
you don't have Anthony
Richardson's status.
Yeah,
probably not playing.
Weather. It's gonna be tough to pass.
So like, this is it. That actually could hurt him. Like, but I mean, he did it without Richardson for half the game last week. So I just believe in the volume. Volume is king, at that point. And so
this is what I love about
you got to go with that.
You're right, and I'm 100% the same motto. Volume is king. You chase the volume. All right, so on to somebody who was getting the volume in week 1, but then week 2 came around and DeAndre Swift stole all that volume. And I'm a little curious here, because I feel like you kind of believe in Kenneth Gainwell a little bit here, because after the big week from DeAndre Swift, instead of kind of having him around more of that ECR range, granted we're talking 30, 40 running back here for Kenneth Gainwell, but ECR has him at 45. Joe, you're a little higher at RB 37, almost like you think that it isn't DeAndre Swift's backfield. I'm kind of curious your thoughts here.
I mean, I think we mentioned this too before on the Fantasy Six Pack Hour. Does anybody trust the coaching staff with this Eagles running game? No. Come on, we came into the year thinking this was DeAndre Swift and Rashad Penny. We came into last week thinking it was going to be Rashad Penny and maybe DeAndre Swift. Both were wrong. It was all Gainwell somehow, and then it was all Swift. Penny just, like, I don't even know why they still roster this dude.
They don't want him to get hurt.
You're not wrong.
I mean, you're right, but I mean, don't you have to use him first before he gets hurt? I don't know. Like, it's just mind-boggling to me. So
he can't even pass block right now before
it's sort of maybe I'm playing it too safe. Maybe I could go higher on Swift because he had a big blow-up week last week, but Gainwell had a big week the week before, and now he's back. So I don't know. I mean, I want to believe in Swift because I do think he is a more talented player. It's just, I've probably got Swift lower than the consensus too. I haven't looked at it, but it's not going to be easy.
Yeah,
to figure out which running back is going to get used in this backfield every week.
I wasn't trying to like stump you or anything, because this is just a question that I'm sure people are wondering about with this backfield. Do you trust it at all to even want to start one of these guys, or do you just move on to your next options?
I mean, like I said, I think it's going to be tough for a lot of people to move on. Unfortunately, that's the other aspect of it as well. Yeah,
you're
sort of. There's a lot of people stuck. I mean, I've got leagues where I'm missing, Eckler, and of course I drafted like Najee in some of those leagues, and he's been just crap. So, you're sort of just scrounging for whatever you can possibly find and rely on. So,
yeah, especially with this amount of injuries into only 2 weeks for all the running backs. But let's move on to the wide receivers, where everybody is, loving them this year. They were all high in the drafts. Devontae Smith had a good week last week, hanging around ECR wide receiver 11. You have him at 16. All right. And the Eagles are playing the Buccaneers on Monday night.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So is this like a primetime deal, or is this like AJ Brown had his little fit on the sidelines and now they kind of expect to get him in more involved?
I mean, I still just think both guys are good. I still consider AJ Brown the alpha in that, on that team. I think the Bucks secondary has not been great this year. They're 8th worst against receivers. So I think there will be a lot of passing in this game, and I think both will have very, very good days, to be honest with you. I could honestly move Smith up a couple spots, but kind of splitting hairs here with a bunch of other guys that are performing very, very well. So I just think AJ Brown's due at this point. It's kind of what it comes down to.
I mean, I don't disagree with that because AJ Brown is due. He's had a couple, a slow couple first weeks, so got to get your guy involved. All right, now moving on to somebody though as hot as all can be, Nico Collins, ECR wide receiver. Yeah, ECR wide receiver 24 this week. You're actually a little down on him, not very much, but it's wide receiver 27. They're going against the Jacksonville Jaguars, which the defense is a little bit better than we expected. Is this part of the reason why?
Trying to figure out I'm trying to see where I've got Nico in here, like, and why I've got him down.
I thought it was 27.
Yeah, sorry, I'm just looking at him real quick here. I mean, I think he kind of fits where, dude, you're talking minuscule points here between like Zay Flowers, Garrett Wilson, Terry McLaurin, Jerry Jeudy, Drake London. Nico Collins is like right in the middle of them. Like
even Drake London's up there, huh?
That's a tough. Hey, he had a good week last week, man.
He did, but maybe Arthur decides not to use him.
Yeah, we can only trust that he's not going to use Kyle Pitts. I believe he will use Drake London.
It's
because he knows.
It's the reverse logic. Instead of going, we know it's this person that he's going to get involved. We just know it's not Kyle Pitts. It will never be Kyle Pitts.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, with Nico, man, like, there's no like domination of targets there. Robert Woods is still involved pretty heavily too. So it's kind of a split load there. And look, you are still dealing with a rookie quarterback. Jacksonville's defense has been pretty good this year. Not dominant. I was about to say dominant, but has been pretty good this year. So, this isn't going to be like last week with the Colts where they're not good, right? So like we knew that was going to be kind of a high scoring game. If the rookie quarterbacks could figure things out, and they did. So I think we just kind of chalk it up to Nico's going to be fine as like a flex play most weeks. Back end our wide receiver 3. That's kind of where he's going to fall in most cases, I believe, especially where you drafted him, because you probably drafted a lot of better receivers ahead of him in your leagues.
Yeah, and just a lot of these people are wondering, do we play the hot-handed Nico Collins over those earlier receivers we drafted? That's why I kind of wanted to put this in here.
I mean, I've got guys who I know went ahead of him after him in the rankings. Dotson's one. Michael Thomas, Jordan Addison, those types of guys like DeAndre Hopkins, I've got below him in the rankings right now.
It's hard to beat 10+ targets each game.
Yeah. So, I mean, he's seen a lot of work because they're behind in games, and they will be behind in this game most likely. So that will play in his favor. At the same time, though, like, you're behind in the game for a reason, and it's because you're just getting beat and you can't do much. And so, at some point, you got to rely on a little bit of garbage time. So that helps, though. That helps receivers, and that's why we boost some of these guys on, weaker teams a little bit up in the rankings, because you kind of know that garbage time's coming at some point.
I mean, you're not wrong. You are not wrong. But we'll move on to then our one tight end question here. And we're going on the complete opposite end of the spectrum here with a guy who has not really seen much work. I believe I'd have to double check it, but only 2 catches through 2 games, Pat Freiermuth. And you are still pretty, I mean, you're higher than the ECR right now. He's at tight end 11 ECR, and you got him at 1 over. It's probably the best one I could find that was relevant at tight end 10. But, with only 2 catches through 2 games, how do you have the gall to put him there? Or is it more like the tight end position is such a wasteland? 2 catches puts you at tight end 10.
It is kind of a wasteland. This might be a little bit of just me being naive.
Because I did see that you had Kenny Pickett. You had Kenny Pickett pretty high above the ECR in your QBR rankings when I was looking at that. So I was just kind of a little like, maybe that was part of the, because if you expect Pickett to have a good week, I mean, it's got to go to somebody.
Yeah, I mean, it is tough with these guys, man. The tight end position is very touchdown dependent. They are getting the Raiders, and man, if anything can happen good for the Steelers offense, it's gonna be against the Raiders, right? I mean, they're just
we can only
awful against everything, it feels like. So hopefully they can figure it out. Hopefully they can get Najee going. We kind of saw a ceiling game with Pickens. Thank you. Last week they are talking about getting Warren back and a little bit more involved. Although we keep hearing that, so let wait till it happens, right? Until I believe it, honestly. But yeah, I mean, I think this is more. It is a lot of matchup play at this point, and look, 3 strikes and maybe you're out from me, and then I'll start bumping you down. But I still think Freiermuth is supremely talented at this point and should be more involved in this offense. But you do it again to me this week against a bad defense in the Raiders, and then you're going to start sliding down into the tight end 2 territory, I would believe.
And that's what I'm afraid of as well, because I agree with you. He's talented enough, and you have Deontay on the IR. Why is he not more involved?
Yep.
But all right, Joe, thank you again for, hopping on and explaining some of your rankings for us. I know I'm not the only one who always has questions about them. I know Jamie
hit me up on Discord if you
exactly. Jamie hit us up on the Friday show for the game previews. He was talking about a couple players, and he goes, but Joe has him at this ranking and all that. And he is always on your rankings.
Oh, so, yes, he is.
We love to see him. But before I let you go, just let everybody know where they can find you at, Joe.
At F6B_Joe, and of course follow at Fantasy Six Pack as well. Jump over on Discord with those guys, and enjoy the day and good luck, everyone.
Yes, thank you for coming on, Joe. You have a good one in the rankings contest. All right, now we bring on our Dynasty Guru and the other part of our Start Sit team here, Keith Jordan. How's it going, man?
Good, man. How are you guys?
What's up, Jordan?
Oh, man, not much. Just up bright and early here. It's we're 2 hours away from football kickoff, man. It's good.
Let's go.
Yes,
yeah. Before I get us going here, I mean, do we got to show off the Dez Bryant jersey at all, Jordan? That you want to?
Not today. Today's just a gray shirt. I had the jersey on last week, so we'll bring that into rotation next time again.
We were so happy about the wireless headphones. I know I was when I first.
I know I was pumped. Yes.
So we have been getting some live Start Sit questions here in the background while we were doing some ranking questions, guys. And, keep them coming. Share it. If you got other people with Start Sit questions, ask them. We will answer every one of them. And then if we run out, we got a post here on Facebook with some that we've been getting going. But
join the F6P member and get access to Discord and talk to us whenever you want to.
You are not, and you can even ask custom questions there. It's, you can get way more detail than just these. But first one we had here was Jose Vega, and he wants to know, are we starting Jared Goff against the Falcons, your Falcons, Keith, or are we starting Trevor Lawrence against the Houston Texans? I'll let you go first, Keith, since you're the new guy on this one for this week.
I mean, I hate doing this, but you got to take Goff versus my Falcons. I know the numbers look good for the Falcons, right? Like, I think we've given up the 3rd or 4th least passing yards in the league. but also know that we've given up the third most passing touchdowns, which is the first kind of hint that maybe this defense doesn't match up to the stats. It helps when you play Bryce Young, when you play Jordan Love the first 2 weeks. We're still not getting pressure is the real issue. We're 17th in pass rush win rate. We're playing one of the best offensive lines in football. We struggle with tight ends. Tight ends have scored touchdowns in 6 of the last 7 games. 7 touchdowns in the last 7 games for tight ends versus Falcons. We struggle with burner receivers, so I expect Reynolds probably to pop off for at least 1 big reception. I'm worried he could have a monster day. I mean, let's be honest, Goff at home is a stud. I give this stat all the time. Last year, Goff at home averaged over 19 points per game. That is including the Dallas Cowboy game where he scored 3.5 points. You take that away in his other 9 home games, 8. I'm bad with math. He was a top 5 QB last year in DFS. And I mean, that's shocking to say, just like it's shocking to hear that Goff was that close to, breaking the all-time record for.
That's what I was more shocked about.
Yeah, I mean,
that's what shocked me.
The dude's good. And the offense is really creative. And what I really like is supposedly they're unleashing Gibbs, who we know he's probably more deadly in the passing game. I think that he is going to be actually rushing early. I'm really high on Goff. I think this game's going to be a shootout. And I mean, the Texans are the Texans. I think the Jags should be able to run the ball. And then not to mention they have a real legit shutdown corner, and they're missing one of their best receivers. So I think it's a pretty wide margin Goff indoors versus my Falcons.
So I'm a Trevor Lawrence believer, and I have him in a shit ton of leagues, let's be honest.
I like T-Law.
But it is a divisional game, and those divisional games, and I do think, Jags take it, but it can be very ugly. Yeah, it could be a rock fight, and I do like the fact that Jared Goff has had a career turnaround on that offense. He's got the weapons. I mean, ARSB is questionable, but expected to play. I lean with you and take Jared Goff as well. How about you, Jordan?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's crazy to say that we wouldn't have thought about this, a year ago, but I feel like it's kind of a toss up here. Like, I really feel like if you're going through doing weekly rankings, these guys are probably in the same tier here this week. So yeah, I'll probably lean Goff just for all the reasons that he said, indoors, at home. But if you feel like you have a gut feeling, Lawrence, I can't fault anyone going there. I feel like those division games, those can get ugly, those can get sloppy. Goff has been on a heater. So I mean, if you want to start T-Law, I don't think that's a terrible call, but I'm going to go Goff here just slightly.
Maybe Goff's a little motivated from throwing that pick last week too.
Yeah, he's got to get that streak going again.
Exactly. All right, on to the next one here. Our good listener and watcher, Bob Dole. How's it going, Bob? Good morning to you as well.
Former president candidate.
Hell yeah. He always watches the show. We love saying his name too. Bob Dole.
Oh, man, that guy's dead. I'm sorry.
But Jalen Hurts or Lamar Jackson here this week. We got the Eagles against the Bucks, and then Lamar Jackson against the Colts. Man, the Eagles have been struggling here, but I mean, they got a little bit better last week. They got a little bit more, but they're still struggling in the red zone. That's what's really kind of bugging me with that offense. But you know what happens when they struggle in the red zone? Jalen Hurts usually gets the touchdown.
Exactly.
So, I mean, you got the other side, Lamar Jackson. They're struggling just as much with that new offense. Good game, but it's still struggling a little bit with that new offensive scheme from Todd Monken. I think he'll eventually get it. It's just going to take a couple weeks
before it's over.
Yeah. It looked good last week. It's getting there for sure.
But play Jalen Hurts. He's just got such a safe floor with that tush push into the end zone. And I really do think if DeAndre Swift and Kenneth Gainwell can't get into the end zone there, it's going to be a Jalen Hurts two rushing touchdown game. Maybe even gets 2 passing touchdowns against the Buccaneers because their pass defense is where they can be had. I'll let you go, Jordan. What do you want?
I'm with you there. It was kind of one of those, like when I'm watching games, I try and put my phone away and not check my fantasy scores throughout. So I was watching the game, and it kind of was like when I was like, all right, yeah, like I'm playing against Hurts in a bunch of leagues, and it's like he kind of feels like he's having a little bit of an off game. Like maybe I'm going to escape this week, and then I get in there, and like almost every league he has 28 to 30 points depending on the scoring, and like a bad week. So I mean, when you have a good week, it's going to be even better from there. So I don't see many situations that I'm sitting Jalen Hurts this year. Like good matchup, bad matchup. I don't see any reason if he's healthy, I'm probably not rolling him out there.
No, I mean the better matchup is the Colts, but at the same time, it's Jalen Hurts.
With the weather, it's not though. I mean, we're talking about rain. Field's going to be sloppy.
Which I love Jalen Hurts even more.
Yeah,
I mean, just because.
No,
I'm saying. You're talking about Lamar.
Talking
yeah,
game.
Gotcha.
And like, do you really want to, with Lamar and his injury history, have him running a bunch in that kind of weather in a game that I hope they still should be able to control? I wouldn't want that, but I'm with you guys. I mean, Jalen Hurts to me is a fantasy cheat code. Like, I'm playing him. Like, if you drafted Jalen Hurts,
2 players in one
lineup every single week. Lamar might be the one guy that eventually by the end of the season, because now he's practically running the same offense that he did in college where he won the Heisman. I think it's going to get really good for the Ravens, but it's early. And again, the weather's bad. Hurts, all the way for me. And again, I would never set Hurts if I have him, on my roster for sure.
Exactly. I mean, the biggest thing, and at least that I always try to put my mind in, is like these guys are real people too, and both of these guys have new offensive coordinators, new offensive schemes. I mean, they need to learn it just as much as we're learning what they're learning. So,
are you concerned about the lack of RPO? Like they basically run none the first 2 games, and that was so much of the offense. Like, do you think that that's coming, or are they trying to get away from it?
I wouldn't be surprised if they're trying to get away from it just to kind of, because at the end of the year, Jalen Hurts was a little bit banged up. They want him healthy at the end of the year. Maybe they're saving that for like the second half of the year.
I think they'll sprinkle it in more as the season goes on.
Yeah. Like just I think they're looking more towards long term because they saw last year and they're like, we have a real shot at getting back to the Super Bowl, and we don't want to be dealing with any major injuries like we were at the end of the season last year. But yeah, this one's a clean sweep. Go with Jalen Hurts, Bob Dole. Play your studs.
Yeah, don't overthink that.
Oh, Bob Dole. Chris Robbin coming in. Nico Collins or Zay Jones then? Now,
Jones is out, so Collins
Jones is out, so this is a pretty easy one. Yeah.
I don't know if this was a question to help you with that, but yes.
Would this have maybe meant Zay Flowers potentially?
Maybe. But let's play it like it is Zay Flowers. Nico Collins or Zay Flowers?
That's
For
close.
me, it's
closer.
Again, Collins because of the weather. It concerns me. All those Northeast games, I don't really want anything to do with those QBs and receivers unless I absolutely have to. I'm gonna load up on running backs and defenses in those games if I can. The same thing for DFS. Flowers is a great option in the sense that I think you don't have to throw it really deep down the field. You can do some stuff. He's had 3 carries in 2 games.
OBJ's out too, right?
OBJ is out.
He's out, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Texans throwing at 44.5 times per game, and Collins is almost at a 25% target share. I mean, that's the literal definition of value, in my opinion.
It is, especially where you got him in comparison. Mm-hmm. I mean, you probably got Nico Collins after even Zay Flowers. But the thing that sucks about it, because you mentioned it, and it's 100% true, the weather. The Colts allow the second most points to wide receivers through 2 games at 53.1.
500 yards and 4 touchdowns.
I know, and it just
2 games. I was salivating.
It sucks that we don't get to unleash it for the most part because of those weather games. It really does stink. But keep that in mind for when you got players going up against the Colts later throughout the year.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Ooh. Real quick, here's more of like a drop question. Do I drop Dalton Kincaid for Jordan Love if he has Fields as QB1? I mean, Kincaid really hasn't done much either. He's got Hunter Henry as his tight end 1, who has been killing it and is, in my opinion, going to continue to kill it because Bill O'Brien is finally running an NFL offense over there in New England. So I would do this just because Fields is struggling, and if he struggles again this week against a solid matchup, in my opinion, just go with Jordan Love. I mean, he's got 2 games of 3 touchdowns. Not a lot of yards, but touchdowns are important.
Yeah, assuming this isn't like a tight end premium league, like I'm okay making this move. Like I'm not probably starting Love. I think I'm going to give Fields one more week.
Exactly, give him one more week.
It kind of
but play it safe, prepare it.
But I'm not. Yeah, especially assuming it's not tight end premium where you get an extra point, per first down or per catch for tight ends. I think you're probably good making this move. I think Hunter Henry is, like you said, I think he's going to have some pretty steady value the rest of the way.
it's going to be hard sitting Henry for Kincaid unless Kincaid just all of a sudden explodes, which I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think it's going to happen in the next few games. Exactly.
I think you'll have signs that see it's coming, so you'll have time to kind of readjust.
I mean, you and Joe were talking about tight ends, and it's a wasteland. Like if you don't have one of those top guys, it's like when you were in college and, it's about 2 a.m. and you're trying to hook up. So you're literally just, looking at everything that you can find and just hoping something works. And I mean, that's basically the way tight ends are right now. I mean, I think Kincaid's got some upside as the season goes on, but if you need depth at QB and you have a quarterback you're really worried about who runs and can get injured easily, doing that, yeah, I would pick up Love, who's a viable option, moving forward. I mean, I think the Packers beat writer has said that this is the first time they're really running LaFleur's offense because Rodgers kind of just refused to do it and had that power. Mm-hmm. We see what guys like Shanahan and McDaniels are able to do, are also, these offensive geniuses. So I would, feel pretty good about picking up Love if you can this late.
I'm still, and this is just me being a Packers fan. I'm still I question LaFleur's offense just a little bit, just because we haven't seen it, because Aaron Rodgers would always audible out of it type of deal. So I still am I'm not going as far to say he is an offensive genius, but his game plan,
same tree, I should say.
Yeah, same trees. And I'll move on because I'll digress. His time management, I think, needs the biggest improvement. You have Jordan Love, a QB making his first year. Why do you not leave him any timeouts left in that Falcons game?
Fair question.
Why? But again, I will digress into a rabbit hole. All right. On to the next one here. This one, pretty sure I already know. I got the sleeper update, Gary, that teammates are basically saying that Joe Burrow is not going to start. They signed another quarterback to the practice squad, AJ McCarron, yesterday.
Man, it's a throwback.
I don't feel very confident about Burrow. I have in the leagues I have him, Gary. I've already taken him out of my lineup. I'm trying to think. I'm actually using. Who are they playing? I'm actually using Stafford.
They're the Rams. So
yeah, I'm using.
Why let Aaron Donald kill Joe Burrow with him banged up? We saw what happened to Geno, screaming. To me, take the L, give them 2 weeks to get help. I don't think they're going to play him. And
no, they shouldn't.
I hate being in that situation of a guy you don't know is going to play on Sunday or Monday night because you're screwed. I mean, if it doesn't work,
I just played safe.
AJ McCarron.
Last week, a good example, Amari Cooper. I mean, we got the late news about his groin. He's he's probably not going to play. Everybody, played it safe. I mean, me included.
I did.
Put the other option in there, and all of a sudden he's playing again, and it's a pain in the ass to deal with those Sunday night games. So I just play it safe. Take Burrow out, especially if you got a solid backup like a Stafford behind him. All right, Dion. What's up, man? Nice to see you here again. He wants to know DeAndre Swift after that huge week or Jerome Ford against the stout Tennessee Titans run defense.
Swifty. I'm going Swift here.
I want to avoid the Philadelphia backfield as much as I can. But if you got Ford, you want to sit Ford this week. Tennessee Titans, I know they haven't played a rock-solid RB yet because they've played Jamal Charles and Joshua Kelly. But Jamal Williams. There's too many Jamals. Jamal Williams, RB 38 week 1 in PPR. Joshua Kelly, RB 51 or 52 last week. All right. And these are guys that got the full workload. Ford's going to get the full workload. It's scary because that Tennessee Titans defense is allowing only 2.7 or 8 yards per carry last I checked. So, yeah, it's Swift. How about you?
They're awful versus the pass. So it's, you should be throwing on them.
Oh, Joe's in the background. Ugh, I'm using Baker Mayfield over Burrow this week. No bueno.
Hey, Baker's been good this year, man. And I'm just saying, it's not as I was wrong about the Bucs offense.
It is Baker against the Eagles defense, though. That's what worries me is the Eagles defense against Baker. I think they take away what's been working, and that's been thrown to Mike Evans. So it's going to be a lot of just underneath dump off passes, I think.
That's fair
this week. All right, on to the next one here. We need one Drake London, Jahan Dotson, or Garrett Wilson. And I'm not going to lie, these are not great options. But if you would have looked into the beginning of the season before drafts, you would have loved having these three guys.
Yeah. So Atlanta's got Detroit. Who's New York? The Pats.
I don't know if you guys are.
Dotson's in a weather game. Wilson's in a weather game.
I
so
go
again,
London.
For me, it's London. Yeah,
I go London.
Indoors.
I'm gonna go Garrett Wilson here. I'm gonna go Wilson.
I was just
at least one play, right? Yeah.
I mean, like I'm a Cowboys fan, and so like I saw last week, like I'm just like I don't know, man. I feel like even against our defense, I feel like he's gonna break one. I don't feel like the Patriots are as good of a defense as Dallas is, so I think he's gonna have a little bit more space to operate. So this is one of those cases where I'm starting my stat here. I'm going Garrett Wilson.
I did the stats on it. Garrett Wilson's only had 2 career games against the Patriots. First week, it was week 8. He was wide receiver 15. He actually had a solid week. It was like 6 receptions.
That was with Wilson, wasn't it?
That was with Wilson.
Yeah.
It happened one time. Bill Belichick got his, he dipped his toes in the water with Garrett Wilson. Week 11 came around. Garrett Wilson finished with 2 receptions, and I'm pretty sure it was like wide receiver 50-something. So, Bill Belichick made his adjustments, and I don't think he's going to let it happen again where he lets Garrett Wilson kill him. Plus, you get the combination of the bad Wilson game, and also Zach Wilson was the other quarterback, and that's in week 11 too. So, it's possible. Yeah, so I do lean London here, although it is not fun. I am very worried that London only gets, the one target again after a 90% snap share. It is not ideal, but I do lean London, and last week is encouraging. All right, Deion's got another one here. He's got Mike Evans, Mike Williams, Jordan Addison, or Christian Kirk. He needs one. Oh, wow, you got a decent options there for only needing one. I actually go Mike Williams. Who was it? I think it was Keith. Was it you that I was listening in on that said about the stat with man and zone with Mike Williams and Keenan Allen?
My co-host Joe the Brain Matz, who is just incredible at this stuff. I mean, it's only 2 games, but it's also historically he's like 1.12 yards per route versus man. It's like 2.2 versus zone. Vikings run the most zone in the NFL 92% of the time. He thinks Mike Williams is going to feast. Joe's really smart. I'm following that. Also, last year, his win rate versus man was 35%. His overall win rate was 46%. So, again, you see how much better he is versus zone than man.
I love it when someone else smarter than me breaks that down so I can then use that in my knowledge.
I just steal his stuff. That's what I do.
But I mean, Addison, he's been great. Don't get me wrong.
He's been off to a great start, yeah.
The touchdowns are saving his value a little bit, in my opinion, which you can't rely on the touchdowns here. Mike Williams is getting the volume. It's his only worry is health, and so far I haven't seen any Q's next to his name, so that's always good. Christian Kirk is down Zay Jones though, so he's going to get that uptick in volume. But I do love that stat, and I kind of want to use it to my advantage, and I'm going to lean Mike Williams this week.
Yeah, man, my gut wants to say Mike Evans just with the way he is getting peppered with targets. But that argument that you made, Keith, was so convincing. I'm almost thinking I want to go Mike Williams now, too, because I don't want to miss out on that. So I'll go I'm going to trust my gut. I'll go Mike Evans with Mike Williams very close.
He's safer. I'll admit it. Mike Evans is safer.
Yeah, if you tell me if one of these guys is going to get 10 targets this week, it's Mike Evans.
Right, yeah.
Hands down.
So just a quick little thing here. Keith, before the show, he goes, man, of course I played Deebo Samuel on Thursday night. Now I'm, fighting this uphill comeback. If you played somebody like that, put Mike Williams in. Go chase the ceiling. But if you're at 0-0, maybe you had Deebo Samuel playing and you're already ahead, play it safe. Go Mike Evans.
Yeah, I think that's really smart. And not enough people talk about that. I do want to say, though, that Addison is also one of my favorite DFS plays this week at 5,500. Chargers
still so cheap.
Chargers have given up the most plays of 20 yards or more. They've already allowed 4 receivers to catch a pass of 29 yards or more. And Addison, as we've seen, already a 39-yard touchdown reception, a 60-yard touchdown reception. I think that game's going to be a shootout. Cousins is another one of those guys that splits indoor to outdoors are insane. He's much better indoors. And what I like about Addison is, I mean, literally one play. I mean, he's had 6 targets each week, but there's going to be one of these games where he catches like a 56-yard touchdown and he catches 6-7 passes, and he's going to have a monster game. This is as good of a chance as any Chargers 32nd in the NFL versus receiver so far.
Yeah. So that one's a fun one though. That one we could probably talk about for another 20 minutes, honestly. Oh, here we go. Kicker question: Tyler Bass or the rookie kicker for the Cowboys, who actually has been pretty hot, Aubrey. I can't remember his first
It's a
name.
cool story too, man.
Mhm.
The
Ex-soccer
soccer player, right?
Yeah.
Or Aussie, like
That's what he was,
man.
soccer player.
So man, I was just an ex-soccer player, and so I'm a Cowboys fan. So I remember watching his first kick that he just shanked so far left, and I was just like, like what did we do here? And then since then, he has just been money, man. Like he's been automatic. Yeah, I'm a believer.
I almost, as much as I love Aubrey this week, and I actually picked him up in a couple of my kicker leagues as well. I lean Tyler Bass here just because the Cowboys play the Cardinals, where they're probably not going to be stopping them a lot in the red zone to be holding them to a field goal. So you're probably going to see a lot of PATs this week from them. Where Tyler Bass is playing the Commanders, who have a very good defensive line and might give the Bills some struggles in the red zone, and they might have to rely on Bass a little bit more. So I lean Bass for the kicker question, and then I believe it's a defensive question with Jacksonville or Philadelphia. You're looking for turnovers. You got Jacksonville playing CJ Stroud, and you got Philadelphia playing Baker Mayfield. I lean Jacksonville.
They can't get pressure. They can't get pressure.
Philly is in that group of defenses that I'm starting weekly, basically.
I know you. I kind of think out loud a little bit here. Not gonna lie. I lean Jacksonville, but the thing is when you're talking defenses, you're talking sacks, interceptions, fumbles. Philadelphia's defense dominates in all 3 of those categories over Jacksonville. I was just kind of looking at the rookie quarterback matchup, but I mean, it's Baker Mayfield on the other side. So the
Stroud actually should have more time this week than he has in any of the 3 previous weeks. Jacksonville's 29th in pressure rate. They were 25th last year, so this is not something new. We know Houston's got a mass unit at O-line, and Stroud's been balling, so I actually think he's a good play today.
Fuck.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Sorry for my Aaron Jones has been officially ruled out. Jair Alexander is down as well. He is not going to be playing. Same with Christian.
That's interesting.
Olave. No Christian Watson either. Yeah, but Olave is going to feast.
Hello.
Jair there.
Yes.
I'm trying to think if there's any other ones here that I'm getting. Nope. Just Aaron Jones and Christian Watson. Aaron Jones and Christian Watson have been ruled out so far. Okay. You're very welcome, Jose. And if you have any other questions, give us a chance to answer them. All right. Josh Allen, I believe, Tua or Burrow this week. Like we said, Josh Allen against the Commanders.
Again, a weather game too.
Yep, you have the Dolphins against the Broncos. Now that's in Miami. Is the weather going to be affecting Miami? Because I know it's a little bit more south than the East Coast up there. That's good. That's good news for Tua then. Although it doesn't look like Waddle's going to be playing.
Mm-hmm.
Take Burrow and just put him on your bench for the week. Don't even put him in the discussion.
These options, for sure.
How do you say Josh Allen over Tua? I can't.
You don't.
Yeah, if they're going to struggle in the red zone, I look at it kind of like a Jalen Hurts situation, and Josh Allen's he's going to run it in himself.
He might be running more than normal anyway with the bad weather, with the rain and stuff. Mm-hmm. So I would still probably lean Tua just because I think Tyler's going to have a monster game versus Denver. Denver's corners are not good. They've been
their defense has been bad.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I like the upside. I think that Allen's going to probably, have a higher floor. But I think Tua's got the much higher ceiling this week.
You're 100% right. Allen is the safer play. It's another one of those questions. Like if you're down down 10 plus points, go put Tua in. But if you want to play it safe, just put Allen in. He's going to get you a solid 15 to 20 points, even in bad weather. All right, Dion, Addison or Drake London?
Oh, Addison next.
Out of these two, yes, Addison. Out of these two, yes, definitely Addison. And then, Dave, the resident Lions guy.
He's gonna be mad at me.
Kendra Miller or Craig Reynolds. I mean, Jamal Williams is on IR, and all they have is Tony Jones Jr. behind him so far, where you have Jahmyr Gibbs for Craig Reynolds. I actually lean Kendra Miller.
I do too.
Yeah.
Packers have given up 15 receptions to receivers. I'm assuming Kendre Miller is going to be the pass catching back at a minimum this week. I was really excited about this play on DraftKings this week because nobody was talking about it Tuesday, Wednesday. Then Derek Carr went out and said this guy's like basically, I don't know, Walter Payton reinvented or something like that. And now all of a sudden I'm seeing it everywhere.
Oh, no.
I do think that he's going to be high use because there's been a lot of buzz on him, but I think he has real potential. And what's interesting is, Kamara's coming back next week. Williams, on IR hasn't looked great anyway. This could be the 1-2 punch. We know Kamara is going to have another, guy with him. Dave pointed out, he's right that they're in the red zone. But the one thing the Falcons actually have been decent at this year has been stopping the run when these offenses get close. Again, they've given up the 4th most passing touchdowns despite the 3rd least passing yards. So I think if Detroit scores in the red zone, it's going to, be like the tight ends and receivers, or when they score, I should say. I shouldn't say if.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely, and I know I get Dave's point here because they're going to split the workload no matter what in Detroit between Reynolds and Jahmyr Gibbs, but I would rather have Kendre Miller, who has a little bit better of a matchup, like you said, against the Packers. I know they can't really, they're better this year, but they still can't stop the run. So I was actually a little bit high on Tony Jones Jr. before Kendre Miller finally got to go in this game because of the matchup and the workload.
Finally, man.
But when Kendre Miller got to go, it's like, all right, you take that downtick on Tony Jones. And, I mean, Kendre Miller's probably like here. Craig Reynolds is like,
oh, it's really close.
It's close. Yeah, it's close, but I still go Miller.
It's just all the buzz out of the Saints camp. Like, because I went and did a bunch of research earlier this week when I was looking at trying to play him. And it's like the coaches, the media, everybody's like, this kid is the real deal. And I just think it's a good opportunity for them to get to see what they have in him because you got Kamara coming back next week. So you're not going to have a lot of options where he's going to get the chance to maybe be the featured back.
It's so true. So true. They want to see if Kendre Miller can be the complement to Kamara. And I think that's what we might see this week. All right. Wembley, full point PPR. Puka Nacua, the waiver wire hotness, or Garrett
This season
Wilson.
has gotten crazy already. Like, imagine asking this question 3 weeks ago, man.
I cannot believe Puka Nacua has done as good as he has. And after week 1, I was like, all right, that's awesome. Great story for the kid. But I'm like, first of all, you got Cooper Kupp probably coming back in 3 weeks. How does this pay out after that? But then, and he has a matchup against the Niners when he dominates. How do you not play Puka? It's Puka for me over Garrett Wilson.
He's being moved around too, so like I don't even think you have to worry when Kupp comes back because he's been really good on the outside and on the inside.
So I have a stat, and I'm probably gonna butcher it a little bit, but I wish I could remember which podcast or which article I read it in. But essentially, like when Cooper Kupp plays, like he's traditionally like 70%ish around the slot. Where like through 2 games, Puka's only lined up around in the slot like about 30% of the time. So like really the worst thing that's going to be affected when Cooper Kupp comes back is going to be Tutu.
Yep.
So like, is this one I'm taking my L on? I think I was wrong. I think Puka's legit. I think that until proven otherwise, I don't really see, especially full PPR, I don't see any way you can really sit him.
And Stafford and Wilson, that's the real question. Would you rather have a receiver catching passes from Matthew Stafford or from Zach Wilson?
It helps when you have the wide receiver whisperer and Matthew Stafford, who just gives us all these wide receivers.
Yeah,
he went to the Breakfast Club. We found out. We should have known that earlier. He went to the Breakfast Club.
We didn't get any updates.
We didn't even know. Thanks a lot, Shefty. Like, what are you doing?
But yeah, it's kind of been nuts what Puka's been doing. Yeah, you are 100% playing Puka. I did get the update that Sean McVay said even though he has the oblique injury, he is expected to play.
I should say, yeah.
So and Cooper Kupp's still out. He's going to be probably the focal point of the offense behind Kyron Williams. It seemed like, because even he's been pretty freaking damn amazing. Yeatman here, Breece Hall or Jerome Ford? This one's easy for me. I'm going Breece Hall.
I got stats on Breece Hall, man. He's one of my favorite plays this week. A lot of people were really upset last week. I get it. He didn't get any carries. I think the Jets played it right. You got a guy coming off ACL surgery. Why would you use him in a game you're getting blown out?
Why are you Don't do what the Broncos are doing with Javonte Williams right now. Don't do that, where they just give him a full workload. Don't do that. But yes, you're right.
Hall over his last 6 games, averaging 8 yards per touch. 5 of those, he started with Zach Wilson. He's averaging 9.7 yards per carry this year. He's getting a 9% target share. And in every game in his NFL career that he's had 10 touches, he scored 15 points or more. He's going to get 10 touches a day. He's going to score 15 points or more. I love Breece Hall.
Yep, Breece, same.
I don't even think the Titans have allowed a total of 15 points to running backs on the season. I think it's only like 9. So yeah,
they were this way last year. It's not just this season. They were also last year the best run defense in the league.
You're right, and it was just like last year where you could throw all over him too.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, this one's an easy one. Keith has a great stat there. He's going to at least get, I think, 15 points this week. Apes. He's got Najee Harris, who's been struggling. JSN. You got DK with the what is it? The rib injury. Michael Thomas.
Play though, right?
He is expected to play, but ribs, that's always a touchy injury. You got Michael Thomas, Zay Flowers, and Tutu Atwell at the flex. Looks like I think we're only starting one here. Oh man. Man, Najee's been tough. The Steelers.
He's out for me. Yeah.
I'm curious. I'm just curious of the matchups here. So Steelers.
Seahawks are at the Panthers. Thomas at the Packers. Flowers are playing the Colts, and then Atwell.
I know you disagree with me. But it's what Joe said for me with Fields. Like, I'm gonna give him three. I'm gonna give him three strikes and you're out here on Najee. He plays the Raiders. It's probably the best matchup he's going to get all year. Yes, there's news of Warren getting a little bit more of a workload, but as bad as Najee has looked, he could look good against the Raiders. And I see it more of like a rushing attempts plus some targets involved in there where he's going to get the most volume out of these guys.
If they don't say PPR right, it's probably, we assuming not a PPR or half PPR league.
Usually we go just half PPR, assume it that way because it's the most average. It is rotating more towards PPR now, but yeah, we usually just think half.
I think that if you're looking for the highest ceiling play, it's Flowers. Maybe the weather doesn't affect like, we thought, and the Colts again are just awful against receivers, but I kind of like Tutu. I mean, Puka's banged up. The Bengals, I know they're a pretty good defense, but they've kind of got burned by the receivers so far that they've played. I mean, both versus Baltimore and week 1 as well. So I actually would kind of lean Tutu, but I love Flowers upside. It scares me again with this rain, the passing attacks, those 3 Northeast games.
Yeah, I think it's the Flowers or Tutu here. Man, a lot of guys just got announced out. Christian Watson, David Montgomery, obviously, but Christian Watson out too for the Packers.
Cam Akers officially out. To Monroe St. Brown, he is
now or never, Madison.
It is now or never. Oh wow! Oh, this one it's not fantasy related unless you're playing the wide receivers against the Chargers. Chargers J.C. Jackson, who signed that 5-year, $82.5 million contract last year, is a healthy scratch against the Vikings.
Hello.
Yeah, so, I mean, that's an even bigger bump for Addison and Jefferson, even though we knew Jefferson was just going to smash anyways. All right, on to the next one here. Yeetman, Zay Flowers or Garrett Wilson? Oh, man, I'd say Flowers for me still. I'm really low on Garrett Wilson. He was 100% saved by a long touchdown last week. Without that, he was going to be a wide receiver 50 range again. So I lean Zay Flowers in that bad weather game because, like Keith said, I mean, after the first 2 weeks, I think it was, his ADOT was only like 3 yards. Like, they are not throwing it deep to Zay Flowers, and in a bad
3 carries too. He might, if they don't throw it a lot, they may run him more.
He's getting a lot towards the line of scrimmage, which you can get away with in a bad weather game.
Yep. I'll go Zay here too.
All right.
Garrett Wilson's like the new DeAndre Hopkins, this unbelievable wide receiver who can't catch a break when it comes to the guy throwing him the ball.
Mm-hmm.
Allen Robinson. Back when he was dealing with Jacksonville and the Bears and all that. This one's a good one, and I'll let you go first, Keith, since you're the resident Falcons fan. Should he pick up another tight end or just keep rolling Pitts out there until he has a good game?
I'm going to go ahead and say this. It's I would this week obviously play Pitts. The Lions are horrible versus tight ends. Their linebackers cannot cover. I expect monster game from Bijan in the passing game. I mean, a monster game. And Pitts if ever, this is the week. They've given up the Lions through 2 games, an average of 7.5 receptions and 85 yards to tight ends. So if it's not this week, I mean, like I'm at a loss for words. I mean, it's so depressing as a Falcons fan. I know the talent of this guy. My buddy watches the all 22. He's open all the time, like burning cornerbacks on routes, and we just
burning linebackers.
Yeah, just won't scheme them. It's like, so this is the week that, like, I have him in some DK lineups. The one league, unfortunately, that I drafted him, I have him in my lineup this week. But if it doesn't go off this week, I mean, honestly, I'm at the point where it's like, yeah, I mean, you can drop him if you find a better option.
Yeah, it's
yeah. Go ahead.
I just agree. It's one of those ones, 3 strikes, you're out in this situation. You probably didn't spend much draft capital on Pitts this year because of all these issues. Tight ends are a wasteland. You can find somebody out there that's going to get just as many points as him if he can't do it this week.
Yeah, man, I don't know. I love Kyle Pitts. I don't know how you could feel comfortable starting him. Like in multiple leagues, I'm starting over Kyle Pitts. I'm starting Cole Kmet. I'm starting Sam Laporta. I am starting
Laporta. I get
both.
Kmet's going to get volume. You know that.
Kmet's
like I understand.
Both weeks. Yeah. So I mean, like, there's like a lot of guys that were going, in that tight end like 6 to 12 range that I'm starting over him pretty comfortably now. I don't want to drop Pitts just because, I mean, like you said, he's open all the time. The talent's there. We've seen he can be a 1,000-yard receiver as a rookie, but I don't understand how you could trust it or feel good about it at all. Like, I think that. Yeah, I mean, I think you need to pick up another tight end, but I would say don't drop Pitts, keep him on the bench for one more week. But I do think he's kind of like in that group where, like, you might want to start making plans for just in case this is what it is for another year.
He is. You definitely want to make a backup plan here. I look at it, fantasy football is a game of trends, and you look at it in 3-week, 4-week spurts, because in the next 3-week, 4-week spurt, the schemes and the attacking on defenses are going to change. Like Kyle Pitts may be involved the next couple weeks after, because the matchup allows it to it. Like Keith is getting at right now with the Lions, the linebackers give up on average 85 yards and 7 receptions to them. So I mean, they played
the Chiefs without Travis Kelce. I'd like to add. So then those 2 games, one of them was the Chiefs without Kelce.
And they still allowed that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's rough.
Arthur Smith may look at it and he goes, you know what? This is the week we're going to finally get Kyle Pitts involved. Maybe. I don't know. You're going to feel like a real dummy if you put Kyle Pitts on your bench.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Against the best matchup, and he does it. But you're going to feel like a dummy, too, if he drops 0.
If you start him.
So it is a risk. But, yes, Jordan's right. Prepare to possibly get him out of your lineup for next week. But me personally, I will start him this week because of the matchup and the talent.
And welcome to hell of being a Falcons fan. Seriously. I try to tell people. It's not for the fan.
But you're winning.
Yeah, we'll see how long that lasts.
Even so, this one's a good one. Puka Nacua or Chase if Burrow doesn't play.
And we're already. To me, it's easy, Puka.
It's easy to think it, but to actually say it is like another.
That's the great thing about DFS is it's so much different, right? Because it's week.
You have the detachment.
So my brain is different. Yeah, and it's like
you don't have that 103 draft capital attached to Chase like everyone. But you play Puka.
It's gotta be.
Now, Jamar Chase.
I think there's got to be a way to get Chase in your lineup in another spot, though, right? Like, there's got to be someone else that you have that's worse than Chase.
I'm not sitting
Chase.
Yeah, who are your other guys? I mean, I know you've asked us a couple questions about Addison and like Garrett Wilson. I'd be starting Chase over Garrett Wilson, even though Burrow's not there.
I'd be starting Chase over Addison as much as I love him. I don't want to sit Jamar Chase because the volume, the targets, and he's so talented.
Yeah, I mean, I said this on the Friday show. I mean, he's tied for second in the league for wide receiver red zone targets with 4. With I think some of the other ones were Michael Thomas, Keenan Allen, Tyler Lockett, Zay Flowers was in there. But yeah, they're even they're targeting him in the red zone. It's just he hasn't caught one yet. It's been T. Higgins who has 3 red zone targets and has caught 2 touchdowns off him. That efficiency is not going to stay.
Which is crazy because he's normally the air yards guy, and then it's Chase that always when they need short yards or a touchdown in the red zone.
It's going to change. It's going to, especially if you get a backup quarterback in Jake Browning in there. I think he relies more on Chase than T. Higgins. Jose, sit one, full point PPR. Mike Evans, Michael Thomas, Chris Godwin, or Terry McLaurin. Scary Terry. Out of these guys, I think you got to sit one of the Bucs receivers just because I don't like capping your ceiling by playing two receivers that are the 1 and 2 option in the offense. If it was like maybe a 1 and 3, it's a little different because you're desperate. But you're still capping your ceiling big time. And I think I am sitting, as much as I want to not say it, I'm sitting Mike Evans because, like I said, my gut tells me the Eagles just shut down the deep pass to Mike Evans this week because that's been working for Baker. All right. And the Eagles D line is good enough to get to Baker to where he can't even throw it deep. So I do think Chris Godwin just gets peppered with targets, maybe even Rashad White a little bit. Apparently, I think it was Ike that said this. The Eagles actually aren't that great against the tight ends either, but I ain't starting Kate Otten. So it's Chris Godwin. So I'm sitting Mike Evans this week out of those options. I know you guys aren't going to agree with me, but I'm
going to say Godwin on this one. But I mean, I think your logic's right there. I don't want to start two Bucs against this Eagles defense. If it was a cupcake matchup, maybe, but not against a defense like this. So out of the two, I think it's flip a coin. I lean Evans slightly, so I'll say Godwin.
And to make it very confusing for Jose, I'm sorry, I would sit Terry McLaurin again. Weather game. The Bills
really?
in 2 games. Garrett Wilson 5 for 34. They played Devontae Adams. He only had 6 for 84. Again, the combination of weather, and I think Howell's probably going to be a little exposed this week. He's been great the first 2 weeks.
He has.
I think Buffalo is going to figure out a way to really get pressure on him, and then we'll see.
Yeah, I
think
you got a good
script
options.
for Washington is to run out of time with Robinson. If they want to win this game, they're going to pound the rock.
Yeah, it's so hard for me to start two top 2 options from the same offense on your team.
But they could be down, is where I'm looking at it. Eagles get up, throw.
True, it's true, and they won't have the weather to be fighting against them with that as well. Madison or Kendra Miller this week.
Damn. I guess I'll go
Madison against the Chargers.
I feel confident he'll get 15 touches at least one more week. Because we said Cam Akers was
no
out,
Akers,
right?
yeah.
No Akers.
Yeah, I'll go Madison one more week and just hope and pray, not watch any of the game and just check my fantasy score after.
He should score a touchdown this week, right? We both, all of us think this is going to be a shootout. They're going to be able to move the ball very easily. Hopefully, even if he's averaging 2-3 yards per carry or whatever he's had, they'll be close enough to where, he just stumbles into the end zone one time. Again, for me, it's volume, and it's not even close. We don't really know what Kendra is going to be to where Madison, he's going to be the feature back and what should be a shootout.
At least for one more week, he is.
Yeah.
Madison's safer here. If you want to be a little risque, reach for the ceiling. I think Kendra Miller probably has a higher ceiling.
Yeah,
but
I
Madison
think that's
is
fair to say, for sure.
100% safer, at least for this last week before Akers gets involved.
Mm-hmm.
You might milk that last week of value out of him. I can't remember. Did you already ask us that question? No, he was asking us between Addison or Garrett Wilson. Addison for me.
Here, yeah.
Addison.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right, Richard. Standard league needs a flex. Drake London, Jerry Jeudy, Jerome Ford, or James Conner. I will go quick here. Being a standard league, you lean running backs because of the yards and the touchdown value. And between your 2 options, you have Jerome Ford, James Conner. Jerome Ford for James Conner. Yeah, neither are great. James Conner has a tough matchup this week too, but just Ford. More volume. Yeah. More volume and tougher matchup for Ford. So I lean Conner in this one.
I kind of I don't know, just a gut feeling here. I kind of lean Jeudy, man. I feel like this game's going to be a high scoring one. I feel like last week was kind of
that's where again. I gotta. I'll give you the gut feeling about Jeudy.
I think that Judy's going to have a good game this week.
I'll give you a gut feeling about Jeudy. I'll give you that, but I won't give you the gut feeling about it being a shootout when the Broncos are involved.
I just think they're going to be down, and that's why
I think Miami is going to put.
I'll give you that. I'll give you that, but it's never a shootout when the Broncos are involved.
I think we're on Russell Wilson bench watch. I really do.
Mm-hmm.
They spent money on a backup for a reason, and Stidham. So maybe this week, who knows?
Yeah, I just know standard leagues, you chase yards and you chase touchdowns. You're not chasing catches and all that stuff.
Yeah, I'm
I
not.
don't think Connor's getting a lot of either of those against the Dallas defense, though.
No, and that's where it is. But I don't think I think Ford gets even less against that Tennessee defense. That's where it's like,
You think it's
So
fair
Judy-
to say this is another one though, where like if you think the game is going to be close and you just need a few points, like take one of the backs. But if you're
Yes.
worried that you're going to be down, go with Judy and
It is
try to
one
have
of
the
those
upside
ones.
play. Yeah,
It is, and I take that a lot into my consideration when I'm
Yeah, it's
doing
smart
my start
thinking.
sits.
Mhm.
Are you down? If you're down, you got to chase
Yep.
the ceiling. Safety's not going to win you the week that
Exactly.
week. Then, Connor, do I take a risk on starting Joe Burrow or pivot to Geno Smith, C.J. Stroud, or Matthew Stafford? 100%
Stafford.
pivot.
Stafford.
Yes, and I mean, who did the Seahawks play? That's what I was curious about.
Seahawks are playing the Panthers, who have been
That's a pretty decent.
they've
I'm
been
gonna go
really
Stafford,
bad
though.
versus backs. So I think it's the Walker
Mhm.
game this week.
I go Stafford, and I 100% agree with you, Keith. The Panthers have just allowed so many running. They've
6 rushing
allowed
touchdowns
they've allowed almost as many rushing yards as passing yards so far through
and
2
6
games.
rushing touchdowns.
Yeah, so I think it's just people don't need to pass against the Panthers, and it's Matthew Stafford for me. And Puka.
I believe he's in. I believe he's in.
I was just bringing that up to 100% say that, yes, he was confirmed that he is going to be active.
I like him this week. Do you guys? I
I do
just think
too.
the Chiefs have not scored. They're averaging 10 less points than last year. I
It's
went
a
back and
cupcake
looked.
matchup.
He
They're
saw
due for
12
one of
red
those
zone
huge games.
carries, I think, the last 5
Mhm.
regular season games last year. It's just they have not been in the red zone because they haven't moved the ball. I think Pacheco's a really solid play this week.
He is,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm sure he's going to be a lot of DFS lineups.
Cheap, 5,300, I think, or 54.
Yeah. Kendry Miller or Roshan Johnson? This one's here. Like, we've seen Roshan, but he's clearly still behind. Man, I'm blanking on his name. Khalil Herbert. Thank you. I could only think of Foreman, who was the healthy scratch. Roshan's still behind Khalil Herbert, where Kendry Miller is going to be the guy this week. I lean Kendry Miller, even though we don't know as much about him as we do Roshan.
Full
I think with
PPR,
this-
I might consider Roshan, right? Like, because they're down. But I'm with you. I think it's Kendra.
It's
Just a little bit more
man.
fun.
I mean, the Chiefs defense has been one of the stories of the early season. Like
They're good.
They are stout, man.
Yeah.
I don't think that's a fluke. I think they're going to be good all year long. So yeah, I think you go Kendra here.
I missed this comment earlier. When Reynolds outscores Miller, you can all split the bill and buy my dinner.
What does he want from McDonald's? We'll do that.
Little McD's. Kendra Miller or Javonte Williams?
God.
Javonte.
I hate it. Javonte's been just brutal in the efficiency categories, but he is guaranteed more volume than Kendra. This is one of those ones where I hate chasing the volume because the efficiency is so bad, but I do lean Javonte Williams. It's not a fun choice. It's not. Like my gut wants to say Kendra, but Javonte's going to end up with more touches. You guys, what are you guys thinking there too?
I mean, again, to me, this is one of those
Javonte.
deals where if you're looking for the safe play, it's Williams because we know he's going to get, at least some points, right? Like we could be completely wrong about Kendra and they end up giving him like 3 carries. But the upside side, I love Miller over, Javonte as long as Russell Wilson's the quarterback.
Yeah, no, I'll go Javonte here.
I hate
Give me
it.
that guaranteed
I go
work.
Javonte. I'm not. I hate that they're giving him a workload, but he had multi-ligament injury. It's a terrible idea. Jason Beckner here. Kendra Miller or Tony Jones Jr. Or he gave us a third option here, Roshan Johnson in a PPR league. So we got
Good.
3: Kendra Miller, Tony Jones Jr., or Roshan Johnson.
It'd be funny if we were all like Roshan right now if we just said Kendra, but I'll go Kendra.
I like Miller, yeah.
I'm still on Kendra, yeah, even with a full point PPR. You play Kendra, he's safer there. Kendra Miller or John Dotson.
Are they talking about the backup for the Chargers, Elijah?
If it's him, Kendra. If
Is
it's
it?
Jahan, go Jahan.
I mean,
Isn't that his
yeah.
name? Elijah Dotson.
It's like, well, they have Elijah.
They also-
I was wondering what's his name being out.
They also have Isaiah Spiller behind Eckler too, and Kelly.
I may not even have the right name. I am sometimes a
Kendra
moron.
here.
I think he's talking about Jahan Dotson. I could be wrong here. Yeet man, correct me if I'm wrong.
If it's Jahan, go Jahan.
I still lean Kendrick because Jahan is. You get the bad weather game too as well. Jahan's been on the field more than Terry McLaurin, which is weird because McLaurin's outscoring him. But give me Kendrick Miller. I like the running back over.
Yeah,
a wide
Dotson has
receiver.
really disappointed me. I was very high on him this year, and I mean McLaurin's been banged up and is still, outperforming him despite again being banged up and seeing less snaps. I especially if it's a standard league, I'm going to go with the back and hope they score a touchdown. When it's two guys, I don't think either one of them have a huge high ceiling.
Yeah, I usually lean the running back just because you're guaranteed more volume.
Right.
And like we say, volume is king. Dion said, do I start Josh Reynolds? I mean, ASRB is healthy and he is going to be playing here. But like Keith has alluded, what is it? 8 passing touchdowns, 6 passing touchdowns on the Falcons.
We really struggle versus burners too. Like that's been something for the last couple of years is that speedsters seem to always find a way to make a big play. You look at Reed last week, right? For Green Bay, he's kind of a speedster. He caught 2 passing touchdowns. So I think also Terrell's going to be on St. Brown a lot. So I really do. I like Reynolds and Laporte a lot this week.
I'll turn this into a start set question for us, and it's not going to be fun. Josh Reynolds or Jamar Chase?
Jamar Chase.
That's safe. But I'd have to go Chase. Yeah.
Chase. I
like Reynolds, but
we're not quite there yet. He's not quite.
I was curious. I wanted to temper how we feel about Chase, even with Burrow out.
Right. No, that's fair. I mean, but I'm
I'm
not going to be the guy that's going to say Reynolds, and when Chase, catches 9 balls for 140 yards, I'll be playing it a decade later. Going look at
Chase is good, but he's no Puka, man.
That's right.
True. All right.
I was Johan.
We do.
Okay, Jahan. Yeah, so go Dotson.
Okay, if it is Jahan Dotson, I still lean Kendrick Miller. We do have a couple
rapid fire these last couple.
Yep, rapid fire these last ones here because this is where at least what I think everybody came for. The DFS portion. It's going to be coming up here with Dave, Eddy,
make some money.
And Chris, Robbin, Detroit Beastie. So I know you guys want to get your questions in there. So rapid fire here: Chris Olave, Mari Cooper, or Nico Collins. Keep 2, sit 1.
Olave and Cooper, sit Collins.
Oh, so that's it, Cooper.
I would say Cooper as well. Yeah, I say Cooper.
No.
I like Collins.
I like all 3 of those. I'd like to know who you're.
Great options. Yeah.
I just think Deshaun Watson hasn't played well enough to. CJ Stroud is playing better than Deshaun Watson. Let's be honest. So I look at it as
who could have saw that coming?
Did you call it? Because I was really down.
I've been a Stroud guy, man. I've been a QB1 for Stroud. I'm big on Richardson too. I think it's like Richardson, Stroud in that top tier. Then it's a gap to Bryce Young, but yeah, I'm a big Stroud guy.
Dude is legit.
So
especially behind that line, which is trash.
I look at Collins as safer as Cooper right now. So Stacy, if you're down, big from a Thursday night, game from Deebo Samuel, play Cooper and Olave because you're chasing that ceiling. All right, Cooper has a better matchup against the Titans where they can throw against them. The ceiling is much better there. But if you're up and you just want to play it safe, go Collins and Olave.
44.5 times per game Texas is throwing it, and I don't expect them to be up this week either. And they can't run the ball. Literally can't run the ball.
We appreciate you too, Wembley. See you next Sunday, and good luck in your matchup this week. Clayton wants to know, Kendrick Miller going to be the starter, and how do we feel about him? He is going to be the starter, and it's a great matchup against the Packers. Yeah, you could do a lot worse here. Like we talked about, if you got Jerome Ford or Kendrick Miller, you're putting Kendrick Miller in over Ford. Real quick, Dion wants to know, do I start Deshaun Watson or somebody else this week? All right, I'll just say it briefly.
Else.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. This is the one week where Deshaun Watson is going to get the best matchup of the year.
It's like Cal Pitts, right?
Yeah, if he cannot put it together this week, I do not trust him for the rest of the year, especially when you have the Nick Chubb injury. They're going to pass it a little bit more with that. So if he can't get it going this week, I don't feel comfortable putting Watson in a lineup. But this is the week that you should feel a little bit more comfortable doing it in. But if he doesn't do it, you're sitting in for the rest of the year.
Yeah, I'm okay. You can probably find. I mean, yes, you can probably start him one more week. But if you have someone better, that someone equivalent, I'm okay starting him, or starting someone else over Watson. He's not a must start at this point for me.
Yeah, he's not must start territory. He's not even running the ball as much as we thought he would. And then just
one more question there. Yeah.
Yeah, just one more. It's more of like, how are we feeling about Pittman this week against the
I think he's kind of sneaky good. I think they're going to move the ball a little bit okay with Gardner
weather
Minshew
game.
there. Like,
That's what worries me is the weather.
I don't know.
game.
I think Pittman is going to be the one pass catcher on this Colts team that has like a pretty decent week. I think it could be pretty ugly, but I do think Pittman's going to get peppered with targets from Minshew.
Oh,
Just curious how it goes with that
Mhm.
passing game being such a bad weather, presumably.
Yeah, if it's rain, like you need to check the forecast because if it's not heavy rain, I mean Minshew actually was really good for Devontae Smith and AJ Brown last year in his starts.
Had like 170 yards last week when he
Yeah,
came in.
I mean he can fling it, and they're probably gonna be down. So,
yep. All right. Well, hey guys, that pretty much wraps up the start sit portion of it. I just wanted to thank both of you guys for coming on. Joining me for this. I always have a shit ton of fun doing this.
Blast, man.
Before we move on, Jordan, tell everybody where they can find you at, what you got going.
So on Twitter, Dino NFL, like it says right here. Find me on Twitter there. Probably the quickest way to get a response from me. They're there in the Discord forum. Tag the analyst there. Got my Dynasty show coming out again tomorrow. I got one of our college writers on, and we're going to go through some Devy prospects and kind of take a little bit of a look forward to the 2024 draft class and some of the other names for Dynasty owners to keep an eye on for the next year. And then I will have my weekly written recap that'll come out tomorrow morning that I kind of write throughout the day on Sundays. And then I publish that before I go to bed. So when you wake up Monday morning, if you're I actually think this is free content, even you don't necessarily have to be a member. I think this is a free one. You can come in and get my quick fantasy takeaways from every game that happens today.
All right. And then Keith, let everybody know where they can find you at and what you got going on this year.
Highly recommend reading Jordan's recap. It's been great. I've been reading it myself.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Absolutely, man. You can find me on Twitter at Keith Fleming. On Tuesdays and Fridays, I have 2 articles on Fantasy Six Pack. The first is the DFS values. The second is the DFS stacks. On Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern, 12 p.m. Central, I go on ESPN's Inside Drive. That's Panama City, Northwest Florida's local ESPN show. We talk about DFS. First segment is basically just kind of talking about what's going on in fantasy world. Second, I actually give my plays. And then Thursday night, me and my boy Joe the Brain Matz, who I gave you that stat about Mike Williams. That wasn't me. I'm the talker. Joe's the brain. He great stuff. We've been killing it. Last week we gave 18 plays. They were all 6,500 or under. 10 of the 18 ended up with the fire symbol next to them. I think we're pretty good at this DFS stuff, but the reason that we came to Fantasy Six Pack because we were with a different company last year is because of Dave Eddy and Chris Robbin. They're 2 of the best people in the biz. I respect them so much. And literally I came over here because I want to learn from them. Between them and us, I'm serious. If you do DFS and you're not listening to our shows, what are you doing? It's free money, like literally free money. So
you will literally make your subscription price back probably within the first week.
So I'm really excited about being here. The work at Fantasy Six Pack is just out of this world and just happy to be a part of the team.
And if anybody wants to talk to these guys directly, you can do it in the Discord chat. Just go to fantasysixpack.net/plans to sign up. But thank you guys for coming on. I look forward to
Go Falcons.
Go Falcons. And good luck in your matchups. Good luck in your DFS lineups, Keith.
Thanks, man.
Awesome.
We'll talk to you later.
Appreciate you.
So now the piece de resistance. All right. DFS Dave and Detroit Beastie, Chris Robbin. All right. Take it away, guys. It's all you. I'm out of your hair.
All right. Well, the stars of the show are here, Chris. We can let the amateurs loose. They took up 5 minutes of our precious time. But I guess when, you go on vacation for a week, you come back to chaos.
Yeah, I'm not going to dog them. They were doing the start and sit stuffs. And then you saw at the end, they were really, laying it on thick. I love Dave. I love Chris. And so they knew what they were doing. They were running late, but we're going to really lay it on thick there at the end. So when there's a transition, we don't look like a-holes.
Sure. So, hey, let's just hop into what we got going on here. I'm going to start with the inactives because that's why we do this show at this time, to get you that, most up-to-date information that we possibly can. So let me pop over and take a look here. I'm just going to hit on pretty much a little bit of everything, the stuff that's super important and the stuff that isn't. So Cordell Patterson, he is out. I think that makes no difference in the world. But just know Justice Hill is out. We've known that. That makes Gus Edwards the lead back over there. We're going to have Kenyon Drake and Melvin Gordon activated. I don't think that is anything to really worry about too much. We know Odell Beckham is out, so that bumps up the pass catchers that are left in Baltimore. Josh Reynolds is going to be active. I will be talking about Josh Reynolds a little bit later on. Monter St. Brown is active as well. Expected that. Kind of the one piece that was big news the last couple of weeks, at least for myself, was Christian Watson. He is inactive again today. I think this will probably be the last week he misses, but he is inactive. And Aaron Jones, once again, is inactive. So, you can fire up your Jaden Reeds. You can fire up your Luke Musgraves once again if that's where you were looking. We knew Anthony Richardson is out, so Gardner Minshew becomes in play. Zay Jones is officially ruled out. So Calvin Ridley and Christian Kirk are, in even more of a prime spot. We know Eckler's been out. I'll talk about Josh Kelly a little bit later. We got the Jalen Waddle news earlier. He is out. So, Mostert, Hill, Durham, Smythe. I did get a text from the Smythe family after last week, Chris. They were understanding of your Dalton mispronunciation because, like you said, it is his middle name.
Correct. Yeah. And I was confusing him with a million other players that go through at least my brain, every minute of every day.
Let's see. So Cam Akers got traded over to the Vikings. He is inactive. So, last chance for Madison to kind of take the reins there. I will say real quick, from an MME perspective, I think that Madison makes a really interesting play because everyone's going to be hitting those pass catchers. So I think that with Cam Akers being out, this may be a chance to get a lower than maybe should be owned Madison. Jamal Williams is out, making Kendre Miller a very popular, very cheap target. I will talk about him from a cash perspective when we get to running backs. DeAndre Hopkins is active, so if you're interested in going there. Logan Thomas is out. I think that's kind of interesting because you can use Cole Turner as a punt tight end if you wanted. You can add him into that huge mix. There's nothing official for like the 4 p.m. games. I mean, obviously Bryce Young is out, but we knew that. So yeah, those are the inactives. I know LaPlant is in the background. He will probably drop some sort of a note to us that we can mention if anything happens after that point. But Chris, let's go ahead and let's just hop into our thoughts now that we have basically all the information that we could possibly get for the week. We got 51 minutes until lock. So let's go ahead and talk about quarterbacks. Chris, where are you sitting at, my friend?
Yeah, I'm going to start with Kirk Cousins. Minnesota's playing the Chargers 30th overall against opposing quarterbacks. And Kirk Cousins he's always been, he's just like a plain Jane. Everybody just dismisses him because he's not one of those flashy guys, yet you'll get shots of him on an airplane wearing everybody's gold chains and things like that. One thing I will say is when you mentioned, Cam Akers got traded over and this is the last week for Madison, I can't remember the last time we've seen a running back like so polarizing as Cam Akers is right now. And the same thing could be said for Madison, right? Everybody was like in small snippets. If he can just only be the lead back, if Dalvin Cook can get out of here, well, Alexander Mattinson's going to be a stud. And 2 weeks into the season, he's been like a wah, nothing going on. And then, so it's really weird with these running backs, those two specifically. So we can just put all that aside. Who cares about the running backs right now? But give me Kirk Cousins, 7-8 on FanDuel, 6-9 on DraftKings. I have him at literally 315 yards, 3 touchdown passes. I think Minnesota is going to be hanging with the Chargers here, or is it the Chargers that are going to be hanging with Minnesota? Any way you slice it, both of these teams are going to hang, 28 to 31 plus points there. Let's look at Dak Prescott. I mean, there's no ifs, ands, or buts. I mean, Dallas's defense is legit and they're good. And so in a way, People don't think like that sometimes, right? You're like, well, Dak Prescott, is he good? Is he not good? He turns the ball over, They have a really good defense, but that doesn't really pay any mind to Dak Prescott, who's playing in Arizona. They're 29th overall against opposing quarterbacks, 7-6 on FanDuel, 6-6 on DK. You can pair him with Michael Gallup, CeeDee Lamb. That's more your arena, right? CeeDee Lamb is very expensive, and rightfully so. But Dak Prescott, given the matchup there, I love that. And again, the guys on the previous broadcast, when they were stealing our time, mentioned how he loves CJ Stroud. Houston is in Jacksonville. That's another one of those games where I think is going to be an awesome watch, just an awesome game to watch. I will, as you alluded to a few times, I will dig a little bit deeper into that Houston backfield. But CJ Stroud, only 6-6 on FanDuel, 5-3 on DK. And Desmond Ridder, Atlanta Falcons, are playing here at Ford Field at 1:00, right? In Detroit, 27th overall against opposing quarterbacks here. Ridder, only $7,000 on FanDuel, $5,000 on DK, $21 on Yahoo. I think Ridder, you know what I mean? We have all this the Detroit Lions are going to be undefeated. They're a lock for the North, and they got humbled big time last week. Let's see how they respond. And again, this Atlanta team is young, and they're fun, and they're quick, and they can move around, and their offensive line is awesome, just like the Lions offensive line. So yeah, another game of two teams, the Atlanta Falcons and the Detroit Lions, are just going to be going at it. So again, a full game stack of that one intrigues me as well, which leads me to Jared Goff. And again, Atlanta dead last against the opposing quarterback. So I'll throw it back. I'll toss it back to you because we could do this all day, which we say more than once.
Yeah, right. For me, cash, it really has always came down to two people, and that's Cousins and Mahomes. And it really comes down to the simple question of, where are you paying down and how much are you comfortable? How many positions are you comfortable paying down for? Because there's obviously a price difference between the two. As far as just straight value is concerned, points per dollar, I have them basically as equals. I honestly think, as crazy as it sounds, I think there's a higher upside to Kirk Cousins just because I can see that game, and this is no surprise, right? I can see that game being a huge, massive shootout, just back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Whereas, with Patrick Mahomes, obviously he's a superior quarterback to Kirk Cousins, but for him to hit a ceiling game, we need the Bears to be able to push the Chiefs. And I don't know that happens. So for me, it's Cousins. I wouldn't say it's not close, but it's very clearly Cousins. If you wanted to pay up and go the Mahomes route, I totally get it. I think and I only get to mention this because I've been building a few MME lineups this morning, but without getting too much into anything, I think from an MME perspective, the guys that I found myself interested in, outside of obviously, Herbert and Cousins, but I think Trevor Lawrence is an interesting matchup. I think that's a game where with Zay Jones out, we're going to see Kirk and Ridley get a lot of volume, and volume is what we're looking for. And you can run that game back pretty easily because you've got Nico Collins and Tank Dell sitting there, not expensive whatsoever. You're going to want to get a little bit unique what you do with the running backs, but I'm interested there. And even though I just got done talking about how, I'm more interested in Cousins than Mahomes because I don't see Fields and the Bears pushing the Chiefs, I am running out in 3 max a double stack with Fields, DJ Moore, and Rashawn Johnson, because if they do, he's not going to be super highly owned. We know he's a cheat code on the ground. So I think that's really interesting. And you can obviously run it back with Chiefs without getting too crazy. But I know that's a little bit out of my usual wheelhouse there, but I really do like exactly what I just talked about there. So I did want to make it. I just did want to talk about it real quick, but
you wanted to make it known. You wanted to make it known. I get what you're saying.
I just wanted to make it known. I think that, Lawrence is one of my favorite quarterbacks. I think Fields can be really sneaky. So many people are down on him. And, if they can put together some sort of a game, and if they can score points, I'd actually rather have the Fields stack side of things than the Mahomes stack side of things, just because it's going to be so low owned. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and if you give me a second, when you talk about that double stack or that reverse stack, or I always sometimes I just make things up on the fly, like fading players from the same game in the same game, where it would be, you would stack up Patrick Mahomes, like you would pick 3 or 4 guys from the Kansas City side of things, so it'd be Mahomes, Pachenko, McKinnon, and then just pick a wide receiver, and then you run it back with 1 or 2 guys from the Chicago side of things. Or you do it vice versa, as you said, Justin Fields, Rashawn Johnson, DJ Moore. I would want nothing to do with Chase Claypool. Again, another guy, I don't know what the heck that he's doing on the field, whatever. But people, they get lost in this. How can I put this? Because again, I'm making this up. They get lost in this thing where they want to build a lineup, right? And again, it's a fair assumption to make, where they build a lineup and it's just like they don't want too many players from the same game. Right. Sure. They'll stack up Kansas City, right? Three or 4 players. If that, it's not like baseball where you want 5 guys from the same team, 1 through 4, 1 through 5, something like that. But sometimes people get freaked out about the idea of just putting all your eggs in one basket. And again, you got to make sure that the basket that you choose is the right basket, because when we look at the main slate here, at least I've made that mistake on this broadcast where I'm naming players from Sunday night or whatever, but the main slate, there are 12 games. So it's like, which basket do we pick? Chicago at Kansas City is a good one just based on the Kansas City matchup alone. And by process of elimination, we're going to want to use some of the Chicago Bears, because again, they are going to, I hate to sound like an a-hole again, right? Because we're Detroit Lions fans, but Chicago could be the little engine that could, where they do hang for a little while and then it just gets way out of whack here. But as they chug along here, they're going to accumulate some points. So I get what you're saying with that weird double stack or just the same game stack in general.
Well, and one thing I want to mention then as well here is, you talk about, you want to talk about getting unique, right? Like everyone is going to be on the Chargers and Viking side of things. And you can go on either direction and you can, double stack both sides and you can be totally fine. But I think a lot of times, just simply double stacking both sides is a way to get unique. I think this is a situation where it kind of reminds me of the Seattle and Detroit game last year, where the guy who won the Millie Maker absolutely loaded up on both sides of the ball. So yes, you could do as simple as, Cousins with, let's say, Addison and Jefferson, and then run it back with Williams and Keenan Allen, right? That's more unique than what a lot of people will do. But if you want to take it to the next level, you can do what that, person did in that Detroit, Seattle game. If you think that this is the game, right? Like this game scores 80 points and nobody else, gets really over 50. You can throw, like I said, you can throw Madison in there, if you want to. Get 3 guys from, Minnesota along with Cousins. And then if you want to come back with Gerald Everett or Donald Parham and go 3 on each side with the quarterback, if you are absolutely right, we've seen that you can win $1 million that way. And that's going to make you even more unique. Of course, you need the perfect storm for that to happen, but we've already seen it happen before. So my suggestion for that game is don't stack it the way that everyone else is going to stack it. You need to stack it in a unique or, a kind of a smart way. You know what I'm saying?
Something that makes you very uncomfortable, and that's the whole thing. And very uncomfortable would be Justin Watson, who was mentioned at the bottom of the barrel.
No, I love
it. Or Darnell Mooney. And what
Yes.
if we dislike Chase Claypool, and that's all social media the last few weeks have been, how awful he is. Well, what if this is the week where he scores twice or does something weird? I mean, again, it'd have to be a perfect storm, but we can, how can I say this? We can fade players from the same game in the same game, where I don't want Khalil Herbert, I want Johnson, or vice versa, and then run it back with McKinnon and something like that. So there are endless combos and theories to this thing. And I know when we get to running backs here in a second, I have a lot to say about Houston and Jacksonville, and that is the game I'm putting all my eggs. That's my basket game. Your basket game could be the Chargers at Minnesota, but to me, it's Houston and Jacksonville.
Yeah, and so you'll love what I've done, my Millie lineup with the Bears, like I had mentioned. It's revolved around Fields with DJ Moore, and then I put Rashawn Johnson in there, expecting, hey, if this game becomes high scoring, that's where I'm going. On the flip side, for Kansas City, I put in Kelsey, obviously, right? And then I paired him with Justin Watson because to me, that's their big play. That's like their deep threat now. So if that game, Jesus, I'm thinking basketball now. If that game does go a little on the nuclear side of things, I think that is a unique way to go ahead and attack it while everyone else is playing, Minnesota and the Chargers and stuff. But anyways, that's your game theory segment of the show, which I think is super important, but probably not the best for a live show at this moment. So you said you got lots of running back talk. I've only got a couple of running backs because I'm looking at it from a cash perspective. So why don't you go ahead and run us through your gauntlet, Chris?
Yeah, and I've gotten in trouble, this week, and I know Joe's watching, our fearless leader. He said, Dave looks like Chris looks like Dave. My problem is, my problem is, and we did the game theory. Let me speak from the heart really quick. My problem is I just run out of time because I put so much of my heart and soul into bottom of the barrel in these broadcasts. I can get too ahead of myself where I literally run out of time. And there's nobody show me an article on earth that names, 30 running backs, every week from a DFS perspective. I'd probably be the only one. And to be fair, that's unnecessary to do. But in my heart of hearts, that's just what happens. My pen, from my brain to my hand, to my hand to my, pen. But I have to realize there are deadlines and the stuff runs out of time and we go from there. So to me, I want to mention 30 running backs, and then I want to write 3 paragraphs about 30 running backs. It takes me 2 or 3 days to write one article. I mean, that's not necessary and it's not needed. So when my friends and even my family say, well, maybe you need to cut it down a little bit, it's like I don't know how to reply to that because it's like you might as well just cut off my arm because you're taking a piece of me away. But I know what I need to do and I know what I have to do. So again, this week, as I mentioned, I think 28, 29 running backs here. So it's just going to be a lightning round of things here. Miles Sanders, Carolina at Seattle, great matchup. You love that. Tyler Algier is playing in Detroit, as we said. Those are kind of on the higher side, prices. But if you wanted to dig in the bottom of the barrel, what it's all about here, Tony Jones, New Orleans is playing Green Bay. Everybody's talking about this rookie who hasn't seen a professional snap yet. This is his first
coming off of an injury.
This is his first live game action, and he was kind of tossed around in dynasty circles and talked about all spring and summer when realistically Tony Jones was the guy last week. If I'm not mistaken, he scored twice. So everybody's talking about Miller. I'm talking about Jones, who is only $4,500 on FanDuel, $4,500 on DraftKings. That's the move. And as you said, the Chargers and Minnesota game, everybody's on Joshua Kelly. Why not Elijah Dotson, right? Chargers at Minnesota. Minnesota is 21st overall against opposing running backs. So we're just doing this shook and jive kind of thing, or they call it the Kansas City Shuffle, right? From that weird movie called Slevin, where everybody thinks you make everybody think you're going this way, and while everybody's looking this way, you kind of go circle around back behind them. Roschon Johnson again, Chicago at Kansas City. Taj Spears, Tennessee's playing at Cleveland. Kind of a tougher matchup, but given his price tag, only $4,800 on FanDuel, 4-4 on DK. These guys don't have to do much at all to hit value. I mean, 20, 30 yards and a couple catches, and that's already 2 times the value. And if one of these guys, God willing, finds the end zone, we're already talking big bucks. Tank Bigsby, Jacksonville at Houston. Houston, the last few years, has just been an absolute sieve in terms of letting teams run all over them. Latavius Murray in Buffalo. This guy still exists. I mentioned him last week in bottom of the barrel. And what happens? He falls into the end zone, and with Josh Allen making making mistakes and turning the ball over like crazy. It's a shocking thing to see. I think Latavius Murray is not going to get, 15, 20 carries. He's going to touch the ball 4 or 5 times, and one of those times he's going to find the end zone. So from a price perspective to a value perspective, that's where my head is at. And it's crazy to me that even Damon Pierce, Houston at Jacksonville, right now Jacksonville is 3rd against opposing running backs, but last I looked, Pierce is realistically unchallenged, in terms of seeing 18 to 20 carries a game against a stout Jacksonville team. But as I said, I'm putting all my eggs in that Houston and Jacksonville basket. Only 5.8 on FanDuel, 5.2 on DK, and give me a little taste of Dalvin Cook just because the Jets are playing New England. I talked about it a little bit on Thursday. New England, God only knows that New England is still probably a little snobby. They still think they own the division, but I think with everything that the Jets have going on, Dalvin Cook finds the end zone this week. But just to rehash, give me a ton of Tony Jones, Elijah Dotson, McKinnon, Tank Bigsby, and Latavius Murray would be like literally my top 5, and they are as cheap as it gets at the running back spot.
So one thing, going back to your, Kendre Miller, one thing that I've done here in some of my lineups, and I thought about doing it in cash, but I saved it for the couple of MME lines that I've built, is, and I mentioned this in our Discord, which if you haven't signed up for, fantasy6pack.net/plans yet, that's the place to go to get all this information in our Discord. But I mentioned that, I'm not in on Kendre Miller whatsoever because I'm not necessarily so worried about Tony Jones, even though I do get it. I'm more worried about Taysom Hill. And, I thought about putting him in the tight end spot because we're getting a receiver, we're getting a runner, we may be getting a passer, all for pretty cheap. But I saved that for MME because I don't trust it enough in cash, even though it was a strong consideration. So that's another thing I think going against Kendre Miller. Like I said, rookie, first game of the NFL, coming off of an injury. He's not the unquestioned guy there this week. Yes, I get he's cheap, but I like a few things more. Now, for me, I don't really have a lot of running back plays. I only have 4 of them because I think that's just where you have to go in cash. I'll start off with Raheem Mostert. Waddle being out definitely opens things up for, more than just him, but for him for sure. And so I was probably already playing Mostert, but with Waddle out, he became a lock for me. Joshua Kelly, a lot of people are, sour on him after last week. It wasn't so much Joshua Kelly, I think, as it was the Titans defense. And to be completely fair, in cash, I kind of looked at it from a perspective that I don't normally look at, because in cash, I always say, very, very rarely do I ever force anything. And usually that revolves around correlation. If I'm playing a quarterback, I'm not going to force a pass catcher like I would in MME. But in this case, I was forcing in a Charger and a Viking because I think that this is a game that goes absolutely crazy this week. So for a variety of reasons, and a lot of it comes down to, I felt like there were 3 options as far as Chargers were concerned because I was out on Herbert. It's either Mike Williams, Keenan Allen, or Joshua Kelly, right? I could not afford to get Allen in, who would have technically been my preference if the salary was not an issue. Allen would have been where I would have liked to go. Mike Williams to me is an ultimate MME play because it seems like he either gets you 40 or he gets you 4, right? And I know a lot of people are playing him. I'm worried about it from a cash perspective because we're looking for safety. So Joshua Kelly became the guy. And I'm really hopeful that, with his poor showing last week, that his ownership would get, kind of muffled a little bit. I don't think that it will because there are a handful of, cheap, viable options. I'm hoping people are playing Kendre Miller while I'm playing, Joshua Kelly. But Joshua Kelly has become a lock for me for that reason. I was playing a Charger, and almost by default, he becomes the guy. But that doesn't mean I don't love him. It's just that's how I arrived at him. And then I think the smash play that everyone is playing at running back is Tony Pollard. really what it came down to for me, because we'll talk about another receiver that I was, locking in right off the get-go. For me, it came down to either do I want to play Tony Pollard or do I want to play Tyreek Hill? And yeah, I know they don't play the same position, but, salary-wise, Hill is more expensive, but, I tried so hard to get Jefferson, Hill, and Pollard in, and the lineup just became ugly. Started playing guys that I wasn't interested in, like Miller, Jerome Ford, to make it work, and I wasn't about that. So I went Tony Pollard over Hill, just because, and it almost comes down to, in cash, it's the opposite of MME in the fact of ownership, where I don't care about ownership in cash. Whereas in MME, you're trying to get, unique without getting crazy. If anything, I will kind of go after guys that have a high ownership in cash, because if Tony Pollard busts today, right? If, I don't know, God forbid he gets hurt, or for whatever reason he puts up, less than 10 points, let's say, I'm probably with about 60-70% of the field. And so I'm not really losing a lot of ground if you're right or wrong about.
It's like a wash.
Exactly. Yeah.
Wash.
So sometimes you play those guys just because, if you're wrong, then it's not a big deal. But if I were to go a different route, if I were to play Bijan, let's say, instead of Pollard, I'm not gaining any advantage necessarily if those guys are equal. You know what I mean? So anyways, Tony Pollard is a guy that was in for me as well. The other guy that I think is interesting, and I don't know how often I say this, but I feel like I say it a lot. You can't play everyone, Chris, right? I can only play at maximum 3 running backs. And this is, again, why my pool was only 4 players, because I really like all 4 of these plays, and I'm playing at least 2. Ends up I'm playing 3 of them. And so last guy for me was Zach Moss. Really like the idea of playing Moss today. A lot of people are kind of soured on that game because of potential weather. I think that would only affect the pass catchers. I think the fact that Minshew is playing as opposed to Richardson, I don't think that affects Moss. If anything, that may improve his volume for the week. But I mean, I say it all the time: volume is king in NFL DFS. And that's all that, Moss had last week. Moss basically had every running back touch, last week. And he was a guy that, I would have loved to play, but I just can't really justify playing him over these other guys, partly because it's Zach Moss. But so that's all I had at running back this week, was just those 4 guys. And I'm playing 3 of them, Chris. How are wide receivers? That's always, the ceiling point. That's where I gravitate in MME. And cash, I'm more focused on running backs, trying to get those right, kind of figure out, wide receiver. But in MME, I'm trying to get the receivers right, trying to get those ceiling games, and then, kind of figure out running backs, if you will. So
absolutely.
Talk to me about wide receivers, my man.
Well, I'm going to do it when you weren't here yet. I didn't even ask if you got engaged or not. But last week, when it was me and the people and our producer Mike here, I would just be talking and go pop up this question, and we this perfect segue right into the wide receivers. Mike, Mr. LaPlant, if you scroll up, Mr. Dylan Finnick asked about. He says, "What about Hollywood or Hopkins? Marquise Hollywood Brown." And when I look at that one, I have both. What's strange to me is I have both for 9 to 10 targets, about the exact same yardage, 70 to 75 yards. The only difference is I have D-Hop with 1 more reception. So it's going to be that it's literally neck and neck. So if it's full PPR, then give me a D-Hop by literally 1 point. So it was just like a perfect segue. And in a way, Fantasy Six Pack on YouTube is answering the questions as we're going along. And there was another one about Tutu Atwell and Isaiah Pacheco. That one is as easy as it gets. Tutu Atwell, he's a nice play on certain weeks, but Pacheco, it's just it's a cupcake matchup, as Fantasy Six Pack said. And when you look at that, Pacheco 16-17 carries, 75-80 yards, and a touchdown. So that is just ridiculous. Just like to be a man of the people, right? And Dave, there was somebody that just called you out and asked you a question specifically, Reynolds or Cooper, and I'm guessing it's going to be Craig Reynolds in Detroit. So I can let you you answer that briefly, or as if you want to bring up some statistics, I can talk about a few wide receivers briefly. And I'm going to go right to Nico Collins again. Just one of those things week to week as he starts to emerge as the wide receiver one or the stud wide receiver for Houston. Not quite there yet, but he's close. There's still a little bit of fight there for that wide receiver one role. But Jacksonville, as I said, I love this game from just a stackable position here. Jacksonville 16th against opposing wide receivers. Nico 6'9" on FanDuel, 5'3" on DK. We talked about Kirk Cousins and this Chargers game. Chargers dead last against opposing wide receivers. Everybody and their mother is going to be stacking Justin Jefferson. And to be fair, Jordan Addison has now become, a completely chalky play, not only this week, but moving forward. And I get it. But when you look at his price tag, still a little bit too expensive for like that 6'7", 6'8", kind of price tag is like the cutoff. So I go down. So let's start at the bottom briefly. As I mentioned earlier, Justin Watson, Kansas City is at Chicago. He is their deep play kind of guy. Nelson Aguilar, Baltimore is playing Indianapolis. The Colts 31st overall against opposing wide receivers. Now I know there was some questions about the nasty weather in that Baltimore Indianapolis game, along with the Washington game. That tropical storm kind of came up the East Coast, but that's whenever it's a snow game or just a rain game, those are always fun. And when you look at a guy like Zay Flowers, someone like him, he can make a living just in the middle of the field, running quick slants and things along those lines. So to me, Zay Flowers very much in play. Only 6'3" on FanDuel, 5'4" on DraftKings. Drake London, again here in Detroit. Drake London is one of those guys. I look at Drake London the same way as these others. Like he was in that draft class he was in, what was crazy, and he's yet to do anything of note. I mean, last week he showed a little something, and granted, this is only week 3, but I believe this is the week where he starts to get it rolling, because the secondary here in Detroit is completely banged up, and what's CJ Gardner-Johnson tore his pec, and it's just a nasty thing here. So give me a ton of Drake London, Zay Flowers, Elijah Moore. Mentioned him last week, and he hasn't done much, and it's just a strange thing. There's a lot of weird storylines with even Mac Hollins, Atlanta's supposed number 2. There is no number 1 as of yet, in Atlanta. So again, it would seem to be Drake London based on where he was drafted and all this and stuff, but nothing is set in stone. And even Jonathan Mingo in Carolina is playing Seattle. Seattle's 29th overall against opposing wide receivers. So it's an odd week for wide receivers. We are in that strange part of the season where we have some news and notes and things are starting to take shape. But this is this week and next week are the last 2 weeks before, all right, we know what we're doing and we're going to roll. We're still kind of rolling the dice a little bit in week 3, in my mind at least. Dave, what do you say about the wide receiver spots?
Well, we're getting up on lock here. We only got about 20 minutes. So, I want to get out as much information while it's still actionable as possible. So let me start off here just with a question from Larry Horn, one of the more active members in our Discord. Larry and I go back and forth all the time about things. He's asking me Reynolds or Cooper. Pretty sure he's talking about Josh Reynolds here, looking for a wide receiver comparison. The answer really is, if Cash was not, and I did verify with him, he's looking from a cash perspective, right? In a perfect world where there was no salary involved, it'd be Amari Cooper for me. Amari Cooper was my 3rd favorite wide receiver on this slate from a cash perspective. It was Justin Jefferson, number 1, Tyreek Hill a little bit below number 2, a gap. But then we get to Amari Cooper. So it's Amari Cooper, but Josh Reynolds ends up being the guy that's in my cash lineup because he's just so much cheaper. But if you're just using that as the core for your lineup and you want to decide which one of those guys to use and then figure out the rest, I'm going with Amari Cooper, Larry. So I'm just going to run through things here pretty quick. Justin Jefferson was the guy that I was locking in from the get-go. He's my Minnesota play. He's expensive, but I don't think he's expensive enough. I think he's going to absolutely smash today. and we're not worried about ownership and cash. So I locked in Justin Jefferson. Now we got to save cash. I'm playing Pollard. I'm playing Jefferson. I wanted to play Hill, but I couldn't really make it work. So where do I save cash? I always punt at tight end. I always punt at defense. Usually I punt a wide receiver spot. I'm kind of punting two this week. I'm looking at Josh Reynolds, who we just talked about. He's so cheap. I'm actually kind of glad that St. Brown is playing today, because I think that Josh Reynolds is more effective whenever he wouldn't be the quote unquote primary guy. Josh Reynolds is not a wide receiver one by any means, but he's got really good chemistry with Jared Goff. I was very happy to play a very cheap Josh Reynolds. I think Tank Dell is a cash lock as well. He's so cheap. And we saw a lot of volume of him last week. I don't necessarily know that, we're going to get that from him. Again, I'm not expecting it by any means. He's more of a salary saver than he is, anything else. But, we got a question from Larry again here asking me Dell or Reed in cash. Not the same price. Reed is a little bit more expensive. If I could afford both of them, which I can't, I couldn't even move my lineup to Reed if I wanted to. But I think I like Dell a little bit more, and that's hard to say. But going back to, Chris was on this Jacksonville-Houston game, and I think for MME purposes, it's really sneaky, so I like it there. But Dell or Reed, I mean, I would go Dell if they were the same price, but to me, that's almost a coin flip kind of situation. I talked about how much I like Tyreek Hill. He'd be in play for me. I like Jefferson just a little bit more than Hill, though, so that's why I went there. A lot of people are going to play Mike Williams. I talked about that a little bit earlier. I can't do it in cash. I totally get if you do. He's going to be fairly highly owned. I know Keith Fleming was talking, a little bit earlier, and he was dropping the stat about how much better Mike Williams does against zone than he does against man, and that's what the Chargers run is zone. So totally get Mike Williams. If you want to play him, knock yourself out, go all in MME. I just can't do it in cash. Already talked about Cooper. Again, my third favorite play behind Jefferson and Hill. And then Christian Kirk, with Zay Jones out, Ridley and Kirk should get a whole ton of volume. So, really liked him as well. That's as fast as I can go through wide receivers, Chris. Let's go ahead and hit on some tight ends. We'll briefly discuss defense and, give people the information they need so they can get it in, before lock. So what are you looking at here for tight ends?
Yeah, I'm going down. And when you look at the two most expensive tight ends on FanDuel, at least, it's Travis Kelce and TJ Hawkinson, rightfully so. And when I say I'm going down, I'm going like down in that $4,000 range on FanDuel. And what are we left with there? We have Sam Laporta, $5,200, even a little bit of Kyle Pitts, two tight ends from the same game. I know that is also for some odd reason. There's, to me, maybe I'm crazy. It seems like there's this unwritten DFS rule where it's just like against the law to play two tight ends in the same DFS lineup, but you could.
It's a way to get unique, though. I mean,
absolutely. And you could do Kelce in the tight end spot and then, TJ Hawkinson in the flex. That would be very unique. Or you could do Kyle Pitts and Sam Laporta. And I mentioned Thursday, Laporta's doing all this stuff that doesn't show up on box scores or it doesn't do any of us good from a sports betting perspective, but it does keep him on the field, which in turn, lends itself to an extra reception or two, some more points. But as I was getting to, when you look at the likes of Juwan Johnson, New Orleans is going to Green Bay, and we're just going to keep scrolling. Luke Musgrave is in action again. Durham Smythe again. Miami's playing Denver. Denver's 24th overall against opposing tight ends. Dalton Schultz came over from Dallas to Houston again. Another Houston-Jacksonville kind of game here. Eggs in that game's basket. Jacksonville 26th overall against opposing tight ends. I have Dalton Schultz to find the end zone. Let's look at Harrison Bryant a little bit. Cleveland's playing Tennessee. Tennessee to me is they're just bummed out. They're demoralized. I don't know how many times I can say that. And you mentioned in the beginning of the show how Logan Thomas was not inactive, but I love the idea of John Bates as a Washington tight end to kind of look for. Buffalo 4th overall against opposing tight ends, but he's cheap enough where, again, we're only expecting 2 to 3 receptions, 25 or 30 yards, and given his price tag, that's all he needs to do to hit value. What about Noah Gray, the Kansas City? Now that Travis Kelce is active, nobody cares about Noah Gray anymore. But when Kelce wasn't active, Noah Gray was all the buzz. I mentioned him in the single game slate video. But what about if we use him now when there's a game to be had, when we think the Kansas City's just going to absolutely run over Chicago? Why can't we use him in a spot like that? And we keep going down the list. Foster Moreau, New Orleans is playing Green Bay. I know Taysom Hill you can put in that same spot there, and I have Taysom Hill for like 6 or 7 carries, right? So you can get carries out of
maybe today.
Yeah, you can get carries out of a tight end spot. It's just such a weird thing. And what are the chances we see a little bit of Luke Schoonemaker, the Dallas Cowboys, one of their rookie tight ends? Dallas is playing Arizona. Arizona's always been awful against tight ends, and we're digging down. And one more, Donald Parham Jr., which you mentioned, the Chargers. Yeah. He's the bare minimum on FanDuel. So it's like, it's one of those weeks where I'm completely punting the position. Rarely do I spend up, if at all. And I just don't see a reason why we would have to. No one's holding a gun to your head or twisting my arm to play Kelce or TJ Hawkinson this week. So I love that idea. Or Peyton Hendershot, again, Dallas playing Arizona. Dirt cheap, $4,300, 23 something $100 on DraftKings.
Yeah, so from a cash perspective, I really think there's 3 options. There's only 2 that I was considering. I got to mention Travis Kelce, right? Anytime he's healthy, I think he's an option. But boy, it takes a perfect storm for me to be able to justify paying up at tight end. Because I mean, I honestly look at Travis Kelce as a wide receiver, not necessarily a tight end, right? But it just, I couldn't make it work this week. There was just too many other things that I liked more. So for me, Kelce was not a play. So let me just run you through real quick my process for the week and how it shaked out, because I even surprised myself a little bit. So I was on Smythe right off the bat. Even before Waddle was out, I thought that, Durham Smythe is a guy that I think I'm going to play in cash. Nice, beautiful punt down option. Team that likes to throw the ball a whole lot. Guy who's getting targets. I liked it, right? Waddle is out. I said, okay, boom. I like Smythe even more. More than happy to play him with either Mostert or Hill as well. Wasn't even a situation, like I've had the last couple weeks where, it was either, I can either play Jaden Reed or I can play Luke Musgrave. I can't justify playing both of them. This was not a situation like that. So was pretty confident that I was playing Smythe. Start looking into things, start thinking about it, start looking at the lineups that I'm building. And I just kept going back. Zach Ertz, right? His volume is just so much more guaranteed than Smythe. And I don't like paying that much for a tight end. I like paying, on DraftKings, $3,000 or less. Ertz ends up being $3,500 this week. So that's much more than I would normally pay. But with the cash lineup that I'm rolling out, I literally have enough money where the tight end becomes my last position to fill in this particular case. It's usually, tight end and defense that are the last 2 that I fill. I'm focused on everything else. Pretty much no matter how I sliced my lineup, I was able to play either Ertz, or I was able to play Smythe. So there was no reason for me to play Smythe whenever I could afford the volume that I get with Ertz, So that's what it comes down to for me. I do want to mention one thing, though, about tight ends. I didn't want to interrupt you earlier on, but we were talking about double tight end. And that's actually a question that I got at the Fantasy Football Expo on the panel. Somebody asked me about double tight end. And I think that it's viable, but it's got to be in the right situation. And I think that this week is a prime example of when you could do a double tight end, because you've got that, and I keep talking about this game over and over again. You got the Chargers and you got the Vikings, where everyone is going to want to stack that game. And that's fine. You can do it if you want to, knock yourself out, but you've got to be unique elsewhere. So you want to go ahead and double stack that game, knock yourself out, right? Go ahead and do, like Chris said, put Laporta and put Pitts in that same lineup. Not a lot of people are going to be doing that, right? You take 3 receivers from that game and a running back. You pick the quarterback. Now you slide in Pitts, you slide in Laporta. You're going to be unique. Now, you still have to be correct. Obviously, those guys still have to have a good game. But that's a very good way to get unique. And you're also well correlated because those players are playing each other. So if this Atlanta-Detroit game goes 35-30, and those two guys are a big part of it, the Chargers and Vikings game goes off, you very well could hit in a situation like that. So another way to get unique outside of how I mentioned about just extreme stacking the game. So I did want to point that out kind of to credit what you were saying there a little bit. 10 minutes till lock, Chris. Let's take a couple. Let's talk about defense. Just so you know, I only have 2 that I'm considering for cash. So go ahead and knock yourself out. I know I talk more about defense than you do, but what are your quick thoughts?
Yeah, my quick thoughts. I got three teams I want to play here, and that's the Indianapolis Colts are playing in Baltimore. I just love the idea of just being a nasty, sloppy game. We'll see some fumbles, maybe some interceptions,
correlating with Zach Moss.
Exactly, and just run that one. And then Washington is playing Buffalo, right? Again, oh my God, you're going to play a DST against Buffalo. This would be the week. And when you look at it, Buffalo right now, they're 31st overall in terms of giving up points to opposing DSTs. And I'm jumping on board this Josh Allen just turnover machine narrative thing. I don't know. And to me, Washington is still a very good defense. Their defensive line, their secondary, their safeties, give it to me all day long. And then the Miami Dolphins defense, when you look at they're playing Denver, it's just one of those things where I think Miami just gets up so big where Denver's just going to have to take shot after shot, try and catch up and just make mistake after mistake, some fourth down, turnover, stuff like that, interceptions, things along those lines. Miami's really going to lay it on them, and Denver's going to be, chasing their tail as early as the start of the second quarter after Tyreek Hill scores twice in the first quarter, something crazy like that. So give me the Colts, give me the Commanders to intercept Josh Allen twice, and give me Miami just off of a sheer just volume. Just Denver's just going to have to just try to catch up, and they're just going to fail to do so. And the Miami defense is really good in the way that they've been scheming their secondary.
Yeah. So for me, and I like to mention this every show because, I don't know how many people are tuning in for the first time who are just hearing this portion of things, but my theory for, a game theory standpoint for defense, right? In cash, I just want to punt. I want a cheap option that, hopefully is going to give me some sacks and interceptions. That's where it's at. I'm not looking for, a team against the worst offense in the league necessarily, right? I don't necessarily care that they hold the team to 3 or 7 or 10 points. I need sacks and interceptions. They could give up 45 points. I don't care. If they give me 7 sacks, 2 picks, I'm thrilled, So again, we're not looking for holding teams down. It's not necessarily who's got the best defense. It's sacks, and turnovers. Anyways, with that being said, the 2 punt options I'm looking at, Buffalo is a smash. I think they're kind of the no-brainer here. I think that's where a lot of people are going to go. Again, defense is so volatile that, like I mentioned with, like Pollard earlier, I almost want to just not pay up, but I almost want to just play the chalk defense in cash because if they suck, who cares? 70% of people played them. You're not ahead or behind the field. With how, volatile defense is, I gravitate towards whoever the chalk is. The other one that I'm interested in is the Jets. That's the one game where I think weather is going to be at least somewhat of an impact. It's not like that New England offense is all that great anyways. So I just need a couple of turnovers. Need some sacks, whatever. Not scoring points is still good. That's just not what I'm seeking out. From an MME perspective, I'm looking to just get unique. I don't want to spend up. I still want to be cheap, but I would never play Buffalo in MME. There's really no benefit to doing it. I will always just X out the chalk defense or chalk defenses for MME, and you can give me just about anybody else. I don't even mind necessarily paying up to get unique at defense. So, in MME, what I'm looking at was, you mentioned the Colts. I think that's a really good one. I like pairing them with Zach Moss. And then I like the Jaguars. I mean, CJ Stroud has been throwing the ball like crazy. His offensive line is completely depleted. He's been sacked at least 6 times in each of these first 2 games. Let me pay way up let me get Jacksonville because I think they're going to get 4, 5, 6, 10 sacks today. So that's where I'm sitting, Chris. We got 5 minutes until lock, so I think it's probably about time to cut it short, my man. We can do this for 3 more hours if we wanted to, but
that would be weird.
Everyone, it would be weird, right?
Yeah, that would be the ultimate GPP play. We're talking about games,
late swaps.
yeah, we do a late swap show. So as kickoff is happening, we're still talking DFS. But before we split, we got a big Sunday night football game. The Steelers head to the Raiders in Vegas, and I'm going to cover that from a video, from a single game perspective, and that'll be out later this afternoon, around halftime, third, fourth quarter of the 1 p.m. games, at the start of the 4 p.m., somewhere around there. So look forward to that here at Fantasy Six Pack. You can find me on Twitter, and like the guys said before we came on at noon here, you watch this show, you put in one lineup, and seriously, you can make back that $9.99 subscription fee. They said in 1 week. I would say in one slate. Just play one single game slate, and you'll get your subscription back there. It's a no-brainer move.
Yeah, 2 for 2 in cash. Anyone who's followed my player pool, which I post exclusively in our Discord, has completely swept everything in cash in the first 2 weeks. Pretty darn confident in what I've provided this week. So looking for a third straight week. So literally, the membership is not all that expensive. Doesn't take a whole lot, to earn that back. I guarantee you, the guys that have been following along, they've all won the first 2 weeks. They've all paid for their subscription for the whole entire rest of the year. So with that being said, we will go ahead and head out. We got 3 minutes until kickoff, so time to finalize those lineups. Make sure you're good to go. Chris and I will be back with our show, DFS Den. We record Friday. You'll see it Saturday at 9 o'clock. So we'll see you then. Good luck.